Right now on Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel transforms a 1955 Oldsmobile.
This is a beat-up old four-door. When most people look at it, they'd probably trash it. All I see is potential.
As the project moves forward, Ian's wild vision doesn't sit well with his conservative clients.
All of a sudden, the windshield's cut off and the top's cut off. What are we going to end up with here?
With some tricks up his sleeve, Ian's got to get down and make it happen.
Bill's initial idea was to just primer and move this thing, but I'm going all the way. The whole thing about 50s customs is the style, the flow of it, the silhouette. It's really an artistic thing. What most people are trying to do with these cars is make them look better than stock. Everybody has their opinion, and that's why no two cars are alike. I think the whole lead sled custom car scene pushed the fabricator in crazy directions. You know, I take a lot of inspiration from all the stuff that was going on in the 40s and 50s. I've done quite a few 50s customs. I love the amount of modifications that go into these lead sleds. Studying them has really been the impetus behind my metal forming. It's like seeing a car that's been fully chopped up and reassembled. That's pretty cool. We're over here with my friend Bill's. He says he's got a project car, 55 Olds. He said it ran down a hill and got damaged somehow. Bill said that he wants to put the car together, make it sellable. I guess he's having trouble moving it, and he doesn't want to scrap it.
My son actually bought this car and was going to do something with it, and of course never did. And it sat around here and sat around, and then tried to sell it and couldn't get anything for it. And then I said, let's get Ian involved. He's got good ideas, see what he says.
As I understand, Bill's son abandoned the car on the side of the barn. Apparently there was no wheel chocks put on the thing. During a rainstorm, I guess the thing loosened up and cruised down the hill on its own. The car itself looked pretty darn straight. Unfortunately, the tree really did the bumper some damage.
Hey, Ian, how are you?
I was doing good until I saw this pile.
You don't think you can salvage my mistake?
I wish you would have called me a couple months ago before it hit this tree. It doesn't look all that bad. It does have some cool parts intact. Yeah. And you have the front glass, you said? It's just out?
We do. Yeah,
that's a big plus. As long as it has the factory curved glass, that's a good thing. It's just too bad that front bumper got hit. We're gonna have to find another one, and that's gonna prove to be a challenge.
Well, I've seen your magic before.
Yeah, you know I can cut them up. So it's the typical story of somebody's project dream car that just got in over their head.
Yes, it is. And you're gonna save it.
That's what I do, sir. I'm here to save the day.
I had Ian do work on previous projects, and I thought, well, with this guy's vision, let me get him up here and see what he has in mind.
I'd say to really get somebody interested in this, we gotta chop the top. If you want a custom, that's the start. It's a lot of hard work. I've already done a 55 Oldsmobile chop top.
Oh, you have?
It gets tons of attention. I guarantee you, we chop this, primer it, get the glass in, somebody's gonna take it home.
Good, good. Well, let's do it.
Yes, sir. Go grab that tractor. I got some investigating. Somebody started working on this. I bet this car runs. Mechanics are pretty straight ahead. A lot of people get started on that. The rust and the metal work that everybody gets scared of. But I got this. So it's got all the interior parts. Sweet. It's got a bumper jack. It's got the glass for templates. This is perfect. I always want to go big on all my builds. I want to build something crazy. For me, the challenge is to make Bill happy.
All right.
This car really isn't in that bad a shape. There's a little bit of rust, no real cancer. The main problem is this front bumper, and we'll just change it out. I know I can fix the fender. I did another four-door 55 Olds where I chopped the top, I sunk the glass in it. It's a four-door, and it looks great. People love it. It's been to a bunch of car shows. I don't think Bill wants to go as far as I do with this car. I chopped another one just like it. I'm gonna bring it over here and show it to him and maybe convince him a little. People love that car. They're gonna like this one even more.
Very good.
See the difference here? These are the same car, it's just this thing looks radical. It's just chopped 4 inches, and then I put airbags under it. I took the factory glass and I sunk it down into the body. See how this decklet area is bigger than on the other car?
Wider, much wider.
Yeah, so I just pushed the window in and it's the real deal. So I'm gonna try to do the same thing. Pulling the two cars up next to each other really shows how drastically low the blue car is.
The blue car is chopped too much, in my opinion. It's difficult to get in and out of. That's why I want a little more conservative than the blue one. Am I gonna be able to rein him in? Time will tell.
After I checked these two out side by side, I knew what I was gonna do, so it's time to just clean this up and get it in the shop. First step is always cleaning out the junk. You got a lot of wildlife in this car we gotta get rid of. I've seen a lot worse. This one's okay. Some dry timber in this vehicle. I don't think this is adequate. Do we have any bigger guns? I'm building this car at Bill's shop. It's a really cool space. It's got tons of light, plenty of fresh air. The big drawback is the flies. It's freaking miserable. I feel like Pigpen. Plan for today is start the chop. First thing I want to do is sink the windshield into the dashboard. I'm going to use the stock front glass because it's going to save a few bucks and look really clean. The downside is I'm gonna have to cut out a lot of the firewall and dashboard just to make this thing fit. What I'm gonna have to accomplish is getting the window, because it's curved, it's like a 3-dimensional convex shape. I need to make room for it to fall in, and then I gotta trim back to it. So I think I'm gonna have to cut out this whole area right through the dashboard and all the structure where the windshield wipers and the cowl vents. So The whole chop will be based off of this front windshield. If I don't get it right, then the whole thing's a mess. It's only a car. It will succumb to my will. Let's just cut this car up.
Today, when I walked in on Ian, of course, he gets a lot done quickly. He was already starting to cut the window out, and then that was going to be his template of where the roof sat. What he gets accomplished so rapidly is what's incredible. Cut that window out in, I would guess, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then he's moving right on to the next thing.
Look like 3 inches? I call that a 3-inch chop top. See how it followed this line straight down and it sunk in? I'm not even gonna have to cut into the doors. It's awesome. What I'm gonna do now is brace up the car because I love the way this works. We're gonna commit to a 3-inch chop in these pillars, and then I'm gonna figure out the rear window next. It's gonna be awesome.
I really like it after I see the glass in there, and I think the 3-inch chop is the right thing. I'm gonna go with it.
This is always a hassle. Big part in chopping the top is supporting the body. It's got to be real strong when you remove the roof. Bill had some rebar laying around, and I'm just using that. What I'm gonna do first is get this rear glass out of the way. It's fragile, I don't wanna mess it up. But what I wanna do is leave it in its little seal with the chrome trim, that way this shape surrounding it doesn't distort. I'm committed to the shape of the glass. I can make the metal any shape I want, but the glass is what it is, so you really have, to make it look good, you have to commit to the lines that the glass offers. Seeing that I'm changing all the proportions of the roof, I still have to try to pull it off with this glass. know I'm definitely chopping the A-pillar 3 inches. I cut the B-pillar all the way off. If I do use it, it's gonna get repositioned. Either way, it's gotta be out of the way so I can get the A and C pillars fit up right. I got everything cut out. It looks like it's ready to come off. It might still be attached, we just gotta check. It might have 1 or 2 little places. No, maybe not.
I left for a period of time, and I came back, and the roof is off the car, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble now. You have to understand when you walk in and you see a car that was whole, and all of a sudden the windshield's cut off and the top's cut off, you go, wow, what are we going to end up with here? Is this, you know, I've junked cars before. That was not what I wanted to do with this. I'm anxious to see how he leans this window.
I'm anxious also.
There's two anxious people.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen there. Get that special thing, you can't plan it. You just gotta keep trucking through and hope that it comes around. You know, this wouldn't make a half-bad windshield. Maybe I'll just turn this thing around. That's my process. I don't know where I'm going. I'm committed to the front window at this point. I know I want the back glass. I'm just winging it. This is a really critical part. I solved the windshield issue. The back window is kind of tough also. The issue is that the trunk hinge structure, it's all welded together with the back window frame. And I really want to keep the springs and everything in the stock location that hold up the trunk lid. But that seems to be becoming increasingly difficult. You'll see, I got a plan. All we have to do is take the entire car apart to chop the top. It's gonna be great. The way that I'm going through this, I've made some pretty crazy choices. I've removed a lot of metal. It's only because I want to come up with a really nice line. I don't want point A to meet point B. I want point A to meet point Z. I'll fill in the rest. The coolest thing about this is that the trunk hinges are unmodified. Before, when I did it, the glass was down inside here. But now all the springs will go back. I can just weld the supports back in place. We're in deep now. I took out the front glass just to keep it safe. I gotta put the B-pillars back in for support. Putting these on, I cut them 3 inches lower. It's just to hold the roof up so it doesn't crush the glass. There's no structure in the car now. I was excited to see the roof back on, see the whole look of it, but putting the front glass in, that's the sketchy part.
Ian is a fast worker and busy. I'm old and slow, and when he's putting this glass in, every time he's doing that, I'm thinking, oh, there's $500. When that breaks, that's another $500. I didn't want to do that, but that's Ian, and it all is going to turn out fine.
Yeah, see what we got? Yeah, see, that fits the glass freaking perfect. That's a 3-inch chop.
We set the roof back on and looked perfect. That front glass fit like it was factory, and that's what he had in mind. And I was very relieved when the glass fit that way.
Seeing the roof 3 inches lower, I know I nailed it. But standing around looking at it, it just needs something else.
I'm still a bit apprehensive about the back glass, but he did the front, he'll do the back, and life will be good.
The front glass, it fit great. Looking at this, I think it's gonna persuade Bill that this car is gonna be pretty sweet. My next effort is to square everything up, make sure it's all cool, you know, square up the back, and just tack in a bunch of braces. I'm probably gonna weld it right to the rebar so it doesn't move, just build it. Our body worker guy just got here, just pulling Bill out of another hole. Got himself into another trouble project here. Worked with John on a few other projects. He's been a body man his whole life. The dude knows his stuff. I feel confident to just let him go. So we were hoping you could come in from like midnight to 6 a.m. for the next few days and just body work and primer this. And we're gonna have to leave the lights off because we're on a really strict budget. So I'm gonna yank the deck lid off, the hood off. I'll probably pull this fender and the other fender too. All the work I'm doing on the roof doesn't have anything to do with this front sheet metal, so I'm gonna pull it all off and just start sanding and priming. Big relief, John showed up. I handed him off the hood, the deck lid. I'm just gonna keep feeding him parts. He's a body professional. Loved the positioning of the windshield. I knew there's a lot of sheet metal work to get that thing in. I had to build this trough because the stock glass would be a pain to cut. So it was really just a hideaway for the extra glass we're not gonna see. I measured out the roof skin, set up a bunch of pillars to hold it in place, and got to welding. Clearly see how the glass is gonna land in this trough shape. Just gonna fit it up one last time and get onto the back window. This is gonna work. That is trouble. Now that I've cut it out, the whole thing is falling apart. There's been water under the trim, under the rubber. It's a complete mess. It's falling off of the glass. There was a lot of gunk and crud between the rubber and the metal, so I just tediously cleaned it all out, got it to kind of fit, put some metal straps on it just to hold it in place, and it seems like it's gonna be okay. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Actually, it's kind of cool. I might just chrome those and leave them in place. That ain't gonna work. Hardest part about getting this back glass in is making it flow into the trunk. Just taking little cuts, a little bit at a time, and just trying to fit it in. Now we're getting somewhere. My plan is to not sink the back of the glass at all. I'm just gonna sink this corner, see how it's starting to set under? What that's gonna do is as it comes in, it's gonna have this line follow through, like the hardtop. Third time putting the glass in, it fits. I'm not gonna have to do anything except one little relief cut and weld it together. It's awesome. That's the way I work through these things, is you get these small little glimpses of hope. The back glass fits. Yes. The front glass fits. Yes. That's what I'm looking forward to. All those little steps along the way. As soon as Bill told me he had a 55 Olds, I'm thinking two-door. They're worth way more money. I came up, saw the four-door, and my mind's been on the two-door conversion ever since I started. The thing that makes this car undesirable is that it's a four-door. All the two doors are used up. They're all customized. They're great looking cars. I'm really not happy with the B-pillar in its stock location. The chop on this car makes that issue look even worse. I've already gone this far with the chop. It's a great looking car. I think its value has increased. If I go for two-door conversion with the chop top, this thing is solid gold.
Ian now wants to turn this into a two-door. I really don't want this to turn into a big, huge project. I said to him, if you can do it in one day, great. The car will be better as a two-door, a lot more audience for a two-door versus a four-door. So we'll see how this plays out.
There's a few options. I know I can make the doors. That's a lot of time. My other option is to try to source out a pair. Somebody has them, we just gotta find them. On our way out to Riverside, California, found a guy who's got a 55 Olds. It'll be perfect for this four-door to two-door conversion I'm working on. Hopefully he's got the parts we need. Hey, Hound. Hey, man. How are you?
Good. I'm Pat.
I'm Ian.
Ian, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, man.
All right.
So you got a 55 Olds, I
55
guess?
Olds out there, yeah.
All right.
My name is Pat McMahon. Well, I restore classic cars here out of my house, just mainly for friends and stuff. A buddy of mine found a 55 Chevy that he really wanted real bad, and so I helped him get it. We went and picked it up and everything, and I noticed this car. So I made a deal with him on the car, and I just picked up that one too.
Right on. I think that'll work. Cool.
It was just a little too far gone, a little too much rust, so we decided to sell some of the parts, recoup my money back, and
This looks usable. Shoot, I almost wonder if we're starting on the wrong car. This one's in good shape. Oh wait, the floors are done. Yeah, this car would be good, but look, it's got secrets. Junk. We searched around. It was pretty hard to find a two-door donor car because they're so valuable. We were able to locate it. We got out here and found exactly what we needed. We had all the parts we need. We were able to cut off the backside of the door pillar and get the two doors, and also scored a new bumper. We got what we needed. That's the good thing. Back to the cave. All the sunlight's too much. Got the doors back to the shop. Today's the day I gotta make it happen. Four-door to two-door conversion, it ain't easy, but I gotta do it like right now. I just gotta prove to Bill that this is gonna work. Fortunately, I got the door jamb from the parts car that matches these doors. I know some of the dimensions are a little bit different, but I think I can pull it off. A couple bolts and the door fit. If this door didn't fit, I think we're going back to a four-door. I just assumed it would fit, and we lucked out. Because there is no B-pillar here to support this to the roof, I have to build a very strong structure off of the floor pan so that this panel doesn't wobble around. I was checking out the quarter panels on this parts car, the two-door. I thought I might take them, but really for me it's gonna be easier to put the door skins from the four-door back in place. They already fit, it's gonna be easier to piece it back together and just splice in the door jamb. This is the same game as I did on the roof skin. I just marked on the outside of the B-post here. I'm gonna cut that, fit it, probably take about 16 or 18 times to get it right. two-door doors are the right move. I got the passenger side done, it looks bitchin'. I gotta get the other side done before the end of the day, show it to Bill. Getting the roof chopped, the doors on, and the rear quarters filled in, that's like a big goal.
He did a great job. He did it in one day. I'm thrilled.
That's the most satisfying part of it, is seeing that it's gonna work, but now the real tough part comes, just finishing everything. It's still a ton of work. The whole car is basically laid out. Yesterday I got the doors on. This morning and all day today are stuff you don't see. This is the non-glamorous part. It's all underneath, it's all bracing, inside, just a lot of grinding and welding all day. The main thing today is the inner structure and the sheet metal around the windows. That's pretty much gonna complete the outside of the body. Got this door off, I'm gonna fix this dent real quick and get it to John so he can sand it down and get it into primer. I got this dent pretty much out of there. It's a little wrinkled up, but John can go in with a hammer and dolly and just dial it in. I'm gonna lay in this centerpiece now that I got these two side braces in. I'll lay this in, and then I'm gonna pop all the chrome off and the glass, take it out. Putting the sheet metal in around the trunk area. Getting this and the trim in place is really what sells the whole chop. I was working on the back window. Bill brings in this kid to help. All of a sudden I turn around and Bill's under the car with a torch.
A friend of mine's son heard Ian was working here, working on a project. He wanted him to get involved. I said, yeah, okay. Spencer's his name.
I have this much experience with cars.
We needed to remove the front bumper, and the bolts were rusty, been on there since 1955. Needed to be cut with a cutting torch. I asked him about a torch, if he had ever used one, and his comment was,
I mean, I have used a torch before, but I didn't do very well and I shot sparks into my shoes.
and I said, okay, that's enough for me. We got the torch out, coveralls, cut the bolts, bumper came off, life's good. Well, Ian would be much better at it than I am, but I can get it done.
The way the rear glass is sitting now, the chrome trip is dipping below the body. I gotta pull that off, figure out how to reattach it higher up so that it looks like it belongs. So ultimately the plan is, trim's gonna go just like that. That's what I did with the other car. So I'll build the body right up here, hide the glass, voila.
Yeah, I'd ask him a question about the way the glass lays in the back, and he was drawing it on the glass, and he said, there's my blueprint. Well, that's a pretty darn rough blueprint.
See my blueprints here? It's very technical. My time on the USS Enterprise, galaxy far away, I did some internship on that style blueprint drawing. The height of technical ingenuity. Perfect. All right, now as soon as I get this ½ pound of potting soil out from underneath the window, I could probably get back to work. You're still 2 big holes in the car, around the windshield and around the rear glass. I gotta sheet metal that in. It's pretty tricky because the glass doesn't fit there. I have to make it look like it does. So it's pretty challenging. Put the glass out of the way. I'm just gonna grind this seam down and follow this right through. I'm gonna end up clearancing it a little bit so the glass can set on and off, but the chrome trim will hide that gap. Right now, I'm just finishing up the last few sheet metal pieces around the rear window and the windshield. Fitting in this sheet metal is gonna make the whole thing fit right. It's just gonna look like it's factory. This is the least thrilling part of the whole job. It's always the loose ends, putting things back together that is just monotonous. But this is the part that really makes the car shine. Anybody can create a silhouette, but to have all the finished pieces in place, that's what makes a real custom. This car is 50 or 60 years old. Every panel's been bumped and dented and pushed at one time or another. I'm having to skim coat the whole freaking car. This car isn't gonna be show car straight, but we're putting it back, at least in a usable state. It was pretty freaking rough. This is the good stuff. It really sands easy, and the thing I like about it most is that there's very little air bubbles in it once it's mixed. Doing custom work is never easy. I picture it in my head, but in reality, it always takes 10 times longer. Pushing 36 grit sandpaper all day, it ain't easy. But look how good that stuff spreads. See what I'm talking about? I really like the body filler because the smell, the amount of hard work, you know, the dirt in general, I just feel comfortable. It's like in my element, you know?
I like it a lot. I'm anxious to see what it looks like in primer, where it's not all splotchy and you can get a better feel for what it's going to be.
In the onset of this project, Bill really just wanted to clean the car up a bit and sell it.
The car's turning out. I'm starting to fall in love with this stupid car. The idea was to move it. Well, I don't like to move it now. I think I might end up keeping this car.
I feel very secure.
Right now on Full Custom Garage, master metalman Ian Roussel transforms an old jalopy into a street-burning hot rod.
My friend Don has a real steel 1931 Ford. It's a 5-window coupe. That's a perfect starting point.
But Ian's unorthodox approach doesn't sit well with his traditional client.
There's times I sit and go, okay, Ian, what are you thinking about? Because he's picking up the strangest part to put on my car.
This is like work, you know? I'm at work here trying to make a really bitchin' car, but I gotta get back to my shop. There's something I've been looking to finish, and I gotta get to it.
Back at the lab, Ian attempts to resurrect a crazy creation.
This car is really kind of the opposite of what Don's is. His is for the street, this is for the show. All it does is get off the trailer, show up at the club, and do its dance.
And later at Don's, things start heating up.
I'd say a significant event occurred in my absence. Hot rods are a purely American thing. They started with early Fords mostly, 20s and 30s Fords. As I understand, GIs came home from World War II and they wanted to go fast. These were made from cheap cars that were just sitting around, just waiting to be hot rodded. The primary reason these cars were modified was to go fast. The looks just kind of followed the function. Chop top, for instance, was to streamline the car. These cars had big, tall, square roofs, so the chop top came about from hot rodding. The big draw to these cars is that they're just a blast to drive. They're lightweight, big horsepower. It's just a pretty gnarly experience. These cars are really desirable. They're making fiberglass reproductions, all steel reproductions, so to find an original surviving all-metal body, that's the best starting point.
Ian and I have been friends for a while. We've worked on several projects together. He gets excited coming over here to see all the projects that I have. I like things a little more simple, and Ian's way more creative.
This is like ideal hot rod material. It's a little bit too far gone if you needed to restore it. All the mechanical parts are junk, but for a hot rod, this body is really good.
Just as we started this project, I was injured, and I've been laid up for almost a year now. And this has been the best therapy, with Ian as motivated as he is, and me knowing I wanted to finish this project and get it going, that the relationship on that worked out really good.
Don's wanted to bring this car back to life for years. It's literally, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years sitting around.
This car's been in the family for almost 50 years now. It needed to do something with it. It was just a cool car.
I love this car. It's really old. It's not rotten. It's been through some stuff. It's an old car. Got crunched in on the side. The frame is toast, but the body is totally usable.
It had been heavily damaged in an accident when it was in storage. And that kind of took the wind out of the sails on putting it back to original. And that's when we truly decided to go all out with it and build a new frame for it. I have a lot of ideas the way I want this car to come out, and Ian's creative mind, I'm sure he's got a lot more different ideas as well. So this is going to be interesting on this project.
There's a show coming up. I just want to go see what's around, get some inspiration, and start this new project. The Ventura Nationals has gone through a couple different transitions. It used to be called the Primer Nationals, but the primered cars have evolved into, like, you'll see, full custom blowout. This show is happening. Looking at other 31 Fords, this is like straight cool traditional custom. This is a lot like Don's in that it's a highboy. It's on the stock frame. It's running a Chevy V8 motor. It's just, you know, this is a really clean car. It's the way you would see it done in the 50s or 60s. And it's just a bitchin' look. The way they got the paint set up, it looks kind of old and patinaed, but this is a real hot rod. Good stuff. It's the same year. It's a 31 Ford. It's unchopped. It's a highboy. It's up on top of the frame. This one I consider even more traditional. It has the wishbones, but they haven't been split, so it sits taller. It's got a flathead V8 motor in it. It's totally legit hot rod. It's the real deal. The exhaust on this car is bitchin'. I really like it. It makes a mess, but it looks awesome. Seems like everything with hot rods has been done. I'm always trying to break new ground, but I see these traditional cars that are pretty mellow, and they're damn nice. Kinda on the fence. I know where I want to go, but sometimes you just gotta hold back. We really started this project about a year ago. I built a whole frame for it, and we haven't done anything since. I made a whole front clip look like a stock car. That's when the debate really started.
I wanted to lengthen it out about 8 inches just so we'd have more room in the cab of the car. I'm trying to build it as comfortable as I can.
The problem with extending the wheelbase is it's not that Model A hot rod that you see on the lakes in the 50s. Those cars were running a stock wheelbase most of the time, and that's the look.
But I was going for more of the practical look, had to make it comfortable.
Don really wanted room in the footwell, so we ended up making the chassis 6 inches longer. For the rear part of the frame, I used 2x3, 1/8 wall, and I used the Model A frame as a template where I put this little jog in it. I just set that up and took the 2x6, just made a join and then plated them with a 1/4-inch plate on the outsides all the way around. We don't have a proper hot rod front axle, so I'm looking for something that looks like it. Don's got a '59 Ford truck in the back, and I think I can modify that to work. Since we need a front axle for the 31, I did this on another car, like a T-bucket I built. I used a truck axle. So it's cool because these straight axles, they have hydraulic brakes. They got the old school wide 5 bolt pattern. The cool thing about this axle is Don's already got it. It's here, it's got a great brake setup. A lot of guys would convert their cars to truck brakes, and really that's the main benefit. I'm just using the whole axle, but it's all about stopping. It's a no-brainer. I'm just gonna cut off the leaf spring mounts and create a new mount for the hot rod style spring. All right, so that's the deal. The main thing I'm gonna have to do before I start, see these pads where the old leaf springs used to mount? I'm gonna cut straight through and then weld a bracket on to hold the new radius rods. I'm cutting off the brackets that held the parallel leaf springs. That's the way the '59 truck was set up, but I want a transverse leaf spring. I'm making new mounts to hold this new style spring. It's pretty straight ahead, it's just gotta be really strong. I'm making the setup so that it holds the radius rods and the spring, so it's really just a bunch of 1/4-inch plate. It's basically just a big steel gusset structure that locates the axle, that's all. That's what I do, man, just using what's available. Anybody can get in the catalog and pick a number, but I'm making it. This axle's done. I painted it black. It's a very simple thing, just a bunch of bolts at this point, and it's ready to roll. Don ordered the radius rods from the catalog.
I don't have a problem with ordering from the catalog. I'm trying to make his job a little bit easier.
Don had the rear end he wants to use, so I put on some brackets, hooked up the 4-link kit. Now we got a rolling chassis. Found this Chevy truck steering box, mounted it to the frame. It's gonna work great. The challenge is mating it up to the forward front axle. They're different ends on the drag link. With every car I've made like this, I've had to make a custom length drag link. So when you put the end on, you just use the Chevy on one side and the Ford on the other.
With all the stuff that I have around here, Ian really has never asked me to go buy anything for a project.
I really like using stuff that's around. There's sometimes you can't get away from ordering parts, bushings, heim joints, that type of thing. But I really just like to find stuff and modify it to fit what we're doing. I think that's the whole thing about being a fabricator. Instead of a restoration-minded person, I'm looking for stuff that I can use, cut it apart, and make it happen. Somebody who's restoring a car is looking for the proper thing that bolts back on. Now that it rolls and steers, there's a few other mechanical things I gotta wrap up and then get on to the aesthetics. So the engine and transmission are basically out of a '67 Mustang. So we're using the same radiator. I built a simple angle iron frame to support it, and it's gonna get held on with 2 bolts to the frame like the stock one, and then it'll just have 2 locating rods to keep it upright that hit the cowl. This is pretty rad. It's a 32 Ford. It's a reproduction grill shell. All right, we're still waiting to figure out what we do about the insert, but that's pretty much the setup. The next step is to mount the headlights and then create some kind of a shock bracket. Typical setup on the Model A hot rod is the headlight mounts have an integral shock mount. It's another thing you could order from the catalog, but I'm trying to make this car Don's. Put as many unique things in it as you can, so I'm just gonna make them. Make them out of some 1/4-inch steel plate, and really, it's a no-brainer. The whole thing about this setup is strength. Those headlights are nice. You don't want them falling off. So the shock absorber is gonna be pushing and pulling on the headlight mount. It's gotta look cool, it's gotta be super strong. You can't mess with these headlights. Polished stainless steel with the cool little lights on top. Money, it's good stuff. This body is 80, 90, whatever years old. It's super old. We had to take it and do a bunch of work underneath. We got replacement wheel arches, a couple replacement quarters, and it's really just cut and weld. Bodywork, sand, sand, sand. We finally get the thing pretty dialed in. It's time to see how it looks as a roller. Don's got the treasure. He's got this Chevy truck steering box, but it ain't gonna work. The stock truck steering box is just one long rod. It's a straight shot from the steering wheel to the box. The Model A is way smaller, so we gotta bend it a bit. Took the steering shaft, cut it a few times, put in 2 universal joints and a couple mounts. There you have it. It's a bent steering rod, and it works perfect. The whole deal is getting the steering wheel in a comfortable position to drive. The steering box is pretty far off from where it would have been in the stock location. Car's lower, so we had to modify the steering shaft. Getting the steering column together was pretty important. You can research or think about anything as much as you want, but the proof is in the test, and it works great. Once I saw the body on the chassis, all I could think was chop top, but Don's hesitant.
This car is an all original, it's an all steel car. I would like to keep it looking as much like an original car as I can. That's why I'm really dragging my feet on chopping the top on this one.
In the end, Don's looking for a comfortable driving car, so no chop top. I'm just trying to help Don build his car. Every Model A has a hole in the roof. Can't get around it. One of the cool factors is it really gives you an opportunity to kind of make your mark. I've been looking around all over, trying to figure out what's gonna be cool. Don's got a bunch of van roofs, he's got car hoods, car trunks, all kinds of stuff. Looking around, I come up on this Mustang hood, and it's pretty thrashed. This is a '69 Mustang hood. The car got wrecked. I cut it out about the same size as the roof opening in the Model A. It's got a neat crease down the center, and it's worthless as a replacement hood. So we were talking about using it to fill the hole in the roof. The contour fits. And it's got this cool little detail in the roof. The selling point to me was the ridge in the hood. The ridge in the hood immediately made me think of a 50s trick where they would put these little air vents in the roof of the car. So that's really what I was hoping to do. I mean, I already had this thing built in my head.
I'm not really sure about the scoop Ian's talking about on the back. I'm, more leaning towards a original stock car. But as creative as Ian is, you have to step back. He's so creative. I mean, there's times I sit and go, okay, Ian, what are you thinking about? Because he's picking up the strangest part to pick up and put on my car. It's just, it amazes me that you never know where he's gonna go with something.
So I'll probably mellow out these 2 side ridges a little bit, and they'll just have a center peak right through the hood. It's like I can finally get creative on a very conservative build, which is like my release valve. Finally, I can do something inspiring. The whole deal with this roof insert is the car can buckle. This is a pretty structural point, so I'm having to clean out all the old crud. The whole deal is just grinding all the edges, getting it super clean so we can mate the sheet metal up and it's a good strong weld. Because if this car goes in a driveway or something, gets some torsional twist, the roof is gonna pop up. It's really important that this is strong, so we're setting it up so it's really strong. This is a huge sheet metal panel, and I don't want to warp it. There's a million ways to jig it up, but I found that tech screws, just screwing it down every few inches, works perfect. So that's the plan. Just screw it down. We'll come back and fill up the holes later with weld. Pretty much it. We'll just weld this on. It's going to take a long time to make all the tack welds. It's about 16 linear feet of welding, so stand by. It's all screwed together and there's no warps or kinks, so it's gonna be a slow welding process, round and round for hours. It takes so long to spot weld a big panel like this. I mean, your thoughts can go anywhere, but mostly for me, it's like the sound of a long, empty hallway with a slight breeze coming through it. It's just nothing. You can't think too much when you're doing this or you go crazy. It takes a long time. The satisfaction comes in the end result, because a lot of guys will want to work through it too fast, and I know what happens. I've been there. So really, I've trained myself to just slow down time. Just take your time and do it right. It's not that hard to weld this on correctly. The whole deal is not heating it up. And if you do heat it up, you got to know how to recover from it. And that's really where the hammer welding comes in. Each time the weld cools down, it shrinks a bit. So nothing's perfect. Some spot welds will be hotter than others. So if you find that it's starting to oil can on you, it gets out of shape, you gotta hammer it back before you do the next weld. It's really just keeping the metal under control. It's just a slow process. You gotta do it right. Once the welding's all done, you just grind it out. It's the same deal that you don't wanna heat it up because you can warp it when you're grinding it. So you gotta know where you're going. Just take your time and get it right. When I'm grinding it, I'm just making sure I don't heat it up. I try to keep the edge of the disc on the weld. Never hit the sheet metal. It's really just, you gotta pay attention. Last part of the equation is the Bondo. Mix it up, fill it, go on to primer. The whole purpose of the Bondo is to level the surface. So you mix it up, spread it, cut it back real fast. Get as much of the material off as possible because you want the paint to be as close to the metal as possible. The whole idea with Bondo is using as little as possible, so I like to work fast. I found that I can use this big old saw blade and it's like 10 grit sandpaper. So if you use it right, it goes really quick. You just sling off the high spots real fast, just go to 36 grit after that. Don's car is bitchin' and all, but it's really not the creative entity that I am looking for. It's like, this is like work, you know? I'm at work here. I'm trying to make a really bitchin' car, but I gotta get back to my shop. There's something I've been looking to finish, and I gotta get to it. Working on Don's hot rod has got me thinking about this car I built about 5 years ago. It's a total show car. It just had some suspension issues, and it's really making me want to bring it back. I took the whole car apart to freshen it up, and what I'm gonna really do is make the suspension work. There's a few really cool ideas, but without the final touches, it's pretty much unusable. This is the freaking mess. It's a pretty nonsensical car. This is the bare frame. The motor and transmission are in it because it's so high fashion, it requires a ton of disassembly to get the engine out. So today, I just gotta come up with a plan. When I originally built the car, I had taken 2 airbags and stacked one on top of the other so they would blow up like an accordion. They were huge. So the airbags, you can see what I did. I just hogged out the threads on this so they just located. So they would fit together like that, a double stack. But the problem was with the arc of the suspension, they would literally turn into a noodle. And if the axle twisted, then they would come apart. They would pop out of the car. So this bag would be here, and then it would just literally break free. The worst thing was that the car could barely even get on the trailer. Even as a trailer queen, it couldn't do that one simple task. The cool factor is it looks like a toy. It looks fake. It was a super simple design. The 2-link is okay, but it needs a third. It needs something to stop it from going left to right. The The whole deal with this modification is I do have to put in suspension components and basically busy up the design a little. I'm trying to make it look as cool as it did in the beginning, but without these extra parts, it just doesn't work. My challenge is to make it look as cool as possible and still drive.
What I had established, obviously you got plenty of up and down movement, you got articulation in the axle, but I need to stop it from going side to side.
So the fix is a third link, some kind of a rod with a joint that as the suspension moves up and down, it swings with it, but it stops it from moving side to side. That's the fix. I might put shocks just inside here. This is all hidden. Might come off with shocks on each side like that. That way it'll give it a little help when it articulates and rises and falls. This is still a show car. It doesn't need to drive across town. It's got no VIN numbers. It's got no license plates. It's not an off-road vehicle. It just needs to get on the trailer. I need to get it out of the storage and back to the show. Goal today is to get this thing to have shocks and a third link in the suspension. I was able to get a couple shocks, Volkswagen front shocks from an early, like 60s bug. I figured they're gas charged, so this isn't a performance car. These were around, and I'm gonna make them fit, even if they wouldn't otherwise. Went digging around in my friend Don's back lot. I was able to come up with an old tie rod from a car. I always like to put a little Volkswagen in every project. I'm using VW front shocks, and I found this tie rod at Don's. I'm gonna make into a third link for the suspension. I just cut one end off. I have to cut it to length, but I think this will work perfect for the cross link. I'll have to come up with a couple mounts and mount this crossways in here so that as the suspension travels up and down, it won't go side to side. The first step today is to create an upper shock mount. I'm really trying to make this thing look like it belongs on the car and not an afterthought. So it's got to be strong and it's got to look as cool as the rest of the vehicle. I've really been tossing around a few ideas on how to build this thing. What I really know is that I don't want to grind on the frame. I don't want to disturb the paintwork that's there. So I'm trying to come up with a creative idea that'll bolt on. What this needs to do for functionality is locate the upper bushing on the shocks. I got a whole bunch of this, it looks like 1x3 or so, rectangular tube. So if that sits on here, and once the shock is collapsed, it comes out to just about the right measurement. So if I set that up like that with a bolt going through, that should work perfect. They're gas charged, they gotta be really secure. It's got to be a strong part and it's got to look cool. I'm trying to make this thing look like it belongs on the car, and I've got drilled holes all over the thing. Some are dimpled, some are all the way through, so probably going to come up with some kind of a thing that matches parts of the suspension. I just cut an 11-inch piece of that 1x3 rectangular stock, drilled a bunch of holes. It took a while. I left the ends without holes because I'm going to put 2 small pieces of tube so I can put a bolt through it. I used a TIG welder to fit the bushings on the end of this rectangular bar. I did that primarily so it's a really neat weld, simple, minimal. There's no finish work, it just looks cool. The whole concept with this from the beginning was to make it look like it wouldn't work. So I'm still trying to keep all these functioning parts kind of minimalistic standpoint. When you look at the car, I don't want you to see a bunch of accessories bolted on. I'm trying to keep it low key. All right. So that worked out good. But the shocks, I think I'm gonna trim these shocks a little bit because that looks too stock. So this whole upper shock looks pretty bulky, and you don't really need this. This is just like a shield for a street car. You'll see what the deal is. I'll just cut this whole top off and it'll look pretty clean. The whole idea is this being a show car, I want you to look at the flashy stuff. This isn't a focal point, this is purely function. Taking these upper shrouds off of the shock just because it makes them look a little lighter, a little cooler. You got a nice shiny chrome rod coming out of it. It just looks cooler. They put these shrouds on it for cars on the street, keeps water, rocks, any kind of crud out of the moving part. But this doesn't have that. This car's never gonna be in the rain or in the mud, so no crud's gonna go down into the shock absorber. So it was primarily for looks. It looks bitchin'. The primary difference in the setup between Don's and my car is I'm using an airbag system. They both have a center mount, but his leaf spring is the thing that locates the axle and keeps it centered. My design for the airbag doesn't have anything to keep the axle centered, so I need to put this third link in. That'll keep it from self-destructing. The whole idea with this being on airbags is it's got to function. It's got to move up and down pretty quickly. It's got to look cool and be strong. Everything seems to be working, but you never know what could go wrong. I mean, this is a raw chassis. Everything seems to be operating, but I'll never know until I get the thing assembled, so we'll see. Spent a bunch of time getting some stuff done on my car, and that's cool, but really, I love to finish projects. Don's car is so close, it's good to get back here. I'm really looking forward to driving the thing.
It's great to have Ian back. While he was gone, I was finishing up on running the brake lines, the fuel lines, some of the electrical that's going into the car. And now that he's here, now we can get down to business on getting that thing closer to being fired up.
Mechanically, Don's got down on all the hoses, wires, brake lines, emergency brake cable. Everything mechanical is complete. Bolting in the drive shaft and modifying the rear forelink are the last two things, and mechanically, it's there. Cool factor times 10. We got some Coker tires, installed some radial white walls, 165s in the front, 235s in the back. It's got the classic big and little hot rod look. The diameter of the rear tires looks great. The frame has got the proportions I like. You gotta see it with the body on. That's what makes it all together. That's what makes it count. Well, the body's in good position. I gotta see what this thing looks like. Been waiting a long time. A lot of effort's gone into getting this far, so let's see what it looks like in the sunlight. I like it, sir.
I like it too. It's so nice to finally see this car going someplace. It's been sitting for 40 some odd years. Now to see it getting so close, I'm so excited about getting that car running and getting it down the road. It is absolutely bitchin'. I couldn't have asked for a better car.
You've seen this car kind of mocked up 100 times already, but with the tires and the paint, this thing is ready. It's looking good. The last bit of fabrication is the exhaust dumps. Don's got a bitchin' set of headers, and they need mufflers. We're bolting on the headers, and I'm gonna fabricate the rest of the exhaust. Don got these old school glass packs, and he wants to run them underneath the doors along the frame like that. Took a whole bunch of cut and welds, but it actually gave it a better shape in the end. I trimmed it back until it has this like flowing rearward, kind of a mellow curvature. It looks good. That's pretty much the layout. I'm gonna take it off and finish weld it, sand it up nice. Don's gonna paint the whole assembly black. So the last bit is just to put a gasket on here. I'm not gonna put it together finally until we're really done, but this is the gist of it. So you got it and it's shut off. It flows out through the mufflers. So it's a 2.5 outlet to a 2-inch end pipe and muffler. But if he goes out to the salt flats or just wants to annoy his neighbors, he can open it up. It'd be like a marching band coming down the street. Without mufflers, this car will be pretty rowdy, you know. Everybody would know who's coming through town. Don's looking to be a little more discreet. He's a little more mature than I am.
And we're ready to install this. An aftermarket air cleaner that looks just fantastic.
Usually wiring a car for me is kind of tedious, but I'm gonna try out this wiring harness kit. It looks like it's all there. It's painless, so they say. And all the wires are labeled. Pretty slick. Cool factor number 2, we got a wiring kit from Painless. It's a big hassle to come up and build your own wiring harness from a bare fuse block. So we got this kit and it has everything. The crazy thing about wiring harnesses is there's always a million wires. And this one is color-coded. Each wire is labeled. It's like a tiny little silk screen machine. I don't know how they do it. Every wire tells you what it goes to. So although it looks like a crazy bundle, they're all telling you what to do with them. It's really a time saver. And it's pro, you know it works. They got a great reputation. We're there. All we gotta do is button up a few things, start it, and run it. We're in the closing stages of this car. Don's project is just wrapping up. Today's the day we start it. It's all assembled, pretty much just up to the accessories and then the start.
Today's the day. It's all coming together. We're finally going to fire this thing up and put it on the road. I am so excited about this.
Gotta put the taillights on, the deck lid, gotta put the seat in, and the steering column. Pretty minor nuts and bolts. The only thing left to figure out is this third brake light.
When Ian was gone, I went ahead and I got some LED lights.
In my absence, the hood scoop, this great styling element, has become a third brake light. Very interesting.
I like the practicality of the safety part of it because the car sits fairly low, that I think that's going to work out really good.
He wired some wires up through the body, and he put these LEDs inside. In the end, it's all about craftsmanship. You know, that is a very custom third brake light. Our plan is to take an old taillight from a car and just cut that shape out. We talked about it. Don wanted a third brake light, and I said, there's no way you're putting one in the back window. So hiding it in the hood scoop was a better choice. The first step was to cut out the shape from the whole lens. We only need a small piece of red plastic, basically. Just creeped up on it. First I cut it with like a heavy cutting disc, and then I used a sander to just creep up on the final shape. I put a little bevel in it as it meets the body. It'll be like a 45-degree angle, so it'll sit right up against the flange that is in the body. We'll just glue in the seam with a little bit of silicone and just call that done.
Oh, look at that. Boy, somebody will see me for miles away. Perfect. Another wonderful job by FM Ian.
The final step of the whole freaking build. We're there. Don's gonna set up some tool to raise the oil pressure. The motor's been sitting for years, so Don needs to bring up the oil pressure and then rotate the engine a few times and get everything lubricated. I'm pretty stoked. Don turned the key and the thing popped right off. It fired right away. The compression and everything in the motor seems cool. It's firing fine, but it's not delivering fuel. I'm not sure what the deal is. It's pulling the fuel up out of the tank, but it's like sort of just pulsing. It's not really delivering the gas the way it should. For some reason, the gas isn't getting to the engine. Don's gonna set up something with a fuel pump or whatever, but I gotta take off. I gotta pick up a car and deliver it to another client. So I'm gonna come back in about an hour. Should wrap this up and we're gonna run this thing. We're ready to rock. I'd say a significant event occurred in my absence. This fire could have got out of control. Apparently there was too much fuel pressure and the whole engine seems to have caught on fire.
Let's get outside.
What happened was the seat and the carburetor stuck open. So it was pushing all the fuel out of the carburetor, and I think there was a spark when I went to pull off the wire, and I think that's what ignited it.
It takes a lot to get me excited. I'm a pretty mellow dude, so you know, seeing a car that was freshly incinerated, it's pretty exciting. I can't say I was really disappointed because it's exciting, you know. I'm into that kind of stuff. It's a bummer. The car's filthy now, but pretty cool. Not everybody catches their brand new car on fire.
It's not going to run tonight. It will run, it will make it to the show. It's just going to take cleanup time now.
Yeah,
Run a
well,
couple
nothing's
of-
burnt. It's
No,
just dirty.
no, it's very minor damage.
Well, apparently getting gas isn't the problem now. It seems to get plenty of fuel. So I think we solved that problem. I guess all we gotta do is wash it up and run it.
It's running, it's ready to go. We're going to the show. Well, had to clean up the mess after the fire, and that was a little challenging, but we got all the powder off of the car. Have not fixed one burnt wire yet, but that'll get fixed later on. And adjusted the timing on it, and it's good to go. I'm really happy with the way this whole build went because the car is easy to get in and out of. It's a nice car to drive. It handles well, it corners well, it stops well, and the wife can get in and out of it well. I'm just so tickled. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more, or a person of Ian's caliber to help me with my own personal project. Working with Ian, he has taught me that you can make things absolutely bitchin' with the simplest tools, the simple material, that you can take something and make the most awesome stuff with it. That I have learned from him. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is assembling it for the first time. It's still kind of a mock-up. I don't know if it's actually gonna work, but I got a pretty good idea, so we'll see. This car is really kind of the opposite of what Don's is. His is for the street, this is for the show. It's high fashion. All it does is get off the trailer, show up at the club, and do its dance. It has no other purpose except to get attention. The hardest part about this is that this is a finished, pristine show car, not like a mock-up. So I'm really trying to be careful. I want to assemble it, polish it, and show it. I got my car put all back together. The front suspension works great. I got it on the trailer and it's off to the rodeo.
Really excited, fire's out, car runs, and we're here. Very happy. I've had a lot of good reaction. The family just loves it. They can't wait to go for rides in it.
Seeing Don happy with the car, excited to drive it, I mean, that's what it's all about. Working with people and getting that type of response makes it happen for me. How you doing, man?
I guess what kind of engine? Like Pontiac, Oldsmobile?
Oldsmobile.
Okay.
48, yeah. Yeah.
How does it go?
It drives like a jalopy. It's
Yeah?
Like
Does
it's
it
like
got
an,
some poop?
it's like an angry little go-kart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that like about a 38 bone body?
It's a Chevy.
Oh, it's a Chevy.
Yeah, it's a 31 Chevy.
I'll be
See
darned.
all the extra lines in the
Yeah.
body? Yeah.
Well, what was it? A two-door sedan or
It was a four-door.
Oh, and you shortened it up?
Everything, yeah. Yeah, I shortened it a little.
Made it
The whole
channel,
9 yards.
chopped it,
Chopped
channeled
it, channeled it,
sectioned
it, and painted the mother pink.
Well, what a car. I've never seen nothing like that in my life, and I've been around for 77 years.
Right on.
That's cool.
To finally finish this monumental task and have people stoked on it is really rewarding. You know, I built the car for me, but the people like it.
Right now on Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel returns to an old client.
My friend Bill always has some kind of project going on. We've done a couple heavy builds in the past. The first one was a beat-up old four-door that I chopped a few inches and converted it to a two-door. Then we took an old 1948 International cab and put it on a modern roll-off chassis. Bill uses it as a work truck. That's the thing with his vehicles. They have to be super functional.
But now Ian takes on two projects at the same time.
I've always loved these Falcons. This is one of my favorites.
Bill's priority is getting this set up, but I'm really thinking about that van. That's a Falcon too? Why is it sitting here, Bill? You're not telling me why. There's gotta be something wrong with it.
But when the two Falcons leave the nest, plans fly out the window.
Well, always when you get Ian, you get surprises.
I got a bunch of concepts. I've never done anything like this before, so I just gotta make it happen.
And when things go wrong, Ian has to dig himself out.
The Falcon van, which I thought was gonna be the simple one, turns into a freaking mudslinging fest.
I love watching Ian work. He is a master at his craft. He has two of my vehicles, so we're getting a double whammy here.
I convinced Bill that I could pull this off. All I have to do is prove it. I'm up here at my friend Bill's property today. He says he's got a couple Ford Falcon projects and he wants me to check them out.
Over the years, I've probably had 25, 30 of these things that I would drag home. Some needed things, some I just flipped, some I just fell in love with and had to have.
Falcon?
Yeah, that is not the one that I want to talk to you about, but that belongs to a friend that works here and he's building it, but...
Yeah, it looks like a good start.
Yeah, he's doing well on that. Ian looked at this nice little 62 Ranchero that's darn straight and said, really? We're gonna work on that car?
So let me guess, the project you have planned isn't in nearly this good a condition. Surprise, surprise.
That's why you're here.
All right, nice. Apparently, Bill has got that collector problem. He's got a bunch of cars, he needs to move them, he wants to improve on them. Coming up and checking out this yellow Falcon, this is what I'm familiar with. Bill's got cars all over his property. I think he stashes them to hide them from his wife, because some are in boxes, some are up on the hill. This yellow one is a total basket case. It's really rough.
That's not it.
Oh, there's a rougher one.
No. Actually, it's not bad. This one's real rough.
How many more of these do you have?
Just have this one in here. That beauty is inside here, Ian.
Oh, right on.
See?
That's my kind of starting point.
Yeah.
This is not anything like the other projects we've started.
Ian looked at it and went, man, this thing is nice. And I was just looking at the tailgate.
What, was it crashed or something?
No, it's the body's actually straight on it. There's not any rust.
This car is a time capsule. It's a total survivor. It's been sitting for almost 10 years, and it looks great. It looks like somebody just closed the doors, put it in that container, and walked away.
I had it for many, many years and drove it. It was my daily driver, and I gave the Falcon to my youngest boy.
Son got it, cruised it around, lowered it, the whole teenage experience. Basically, the car's dead in the water.
He took it to college, and he managed to ruin the suspension cut the coils, it scrapes, it hits, it has no ride. It's still a good car. It's just needs a little help.
This car's in great shape. I think you're stepping your game up, sir.
Yeah, it's pretty straight.
Yeah. Both Bill and I agreed the Ranchero doesn't need any body modifications. It's all about the suspension and the handling of this thing. The big problem with this car is that somebody lowered it poorly. Bill's idea is to kind of rehab it, make it good again.
I have a lot of parts on the property for the Ranchero. I'm hoping that Ian can use them to get the Ranchero back on the road.
Bill's talking about spicing up this Falcon pickup truck thing, and I see a Falcon van. That's a Falcon too?
That is a Falcon.
What year is this?
This is a 1962, as I recall.
That's what I'm talking about. I guess it's an early 60s Ford Falcon window van. It's a short wheelbase. Looks like it was maybe from a utility company or something. It's bare bones inside, but it's a pretty cool looking ride. I'm really thinking about that van. But Bill's priority is getting this truck set up. Well, I'm gonna go back to the shop. You put this on your truck and bring it down, and I don't want to see that yellow one showing up instead. This car is the one we're working on.
I can't do a switcher on you?
Yeah, right, yeah. You show me this one, and then all of a sudden that yellow thing pulls into the lot. Well, I got this car over here and just did my assessment. I told Bill he's got to come by. If this engine will start, then we're going in a different direction than what he had previously thought.
Wow. Last time I saw this Falcon, it was black. Ian went right into it, of course.
I've been busy. How are you?
It changed color.
Yeah. My main concern with this is that it had been painted so many times. I wanted to see what was going on under this weird black paint job. I DA sanded the whole thing with 80 grit just to see what was going on. And yeah, the car's got a couple paint jobs on it and it's got some repairs. But all in all, it's in great shape.
We wanted to start the Ranchero, and I knew it would start, and it did. And it always was reliable and ran perfect and needs to be tuned up.
So Bill came down to the shop, and I really just wanted to hash out what the plan was. I got a couple good ideas, and I want to talk it through. I think if you made any investment in this, it would be to just upgrade the whole suspension. I mean, that's your complaint, right?
They never handled well. So what's your, where do we go?
I've been looking online, and it seems like the hot ticket is like a full suspension kit upgrade. My plan of making this car handle way better than stock just led to a bunch of research. Looking around, I find this company, TCI, and they make a kit that just might work for this. That is a Mustang 2 front end. It's a front clip, has power rack and pinion steering, adjustable coilover suspension. So what it does is it turns this into like a pro street, pro touring car.
Well, always when you get Ian, you get surprises. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Is that really a lot of work?
From looking at what they have, it's almost a bolt-in. Bill really likes this car, and I know that he's looking to get the sure thing. I got a couple crazy ideas, and all I gotta do is convince Bill to go for it.
I've had a lot of experience with Ian. I love everything he's done for me. He's never steered me down the wrong road. It's just writing them checks is a little tough.
So I think if we just set it up proper, put a great set of wheels and tires on it, it'll be like a new driver car. You can drive it everywhere just like you used to.
Yeah, I love it.
I convinced Bill that I could pull this off. All I have to do is prove it. I got a bunch of concepts. I've never done anything like this before, so I just got to make it happen. First order of business was to remove all the old suspension and cut out the strut towers to make room. The whole thing with this project is all the suspension's getting updated, so I'm just looking to get it out of the way. This is really exciting to me because it's going in a whole new direction. I want to get all these parts and put them together and see how it works. I sanded it all down, cleaned it up, and
Now it's ready for the kit. It was messy. I used the torch, the plasma cutter, the Sawzall. My job is done here. I got all the TCI parts in, and it's like Christmas morning. It's boxes and wrappers and laying out all the stuff. This stuff is totally pro race car looking suspension components. You got disc brakes, lowered spindles, adjustable coilover shocks, the whole 9 yards. The first order of business is to get this front suspension in place. There's a series of bolt holes and guides that you use to locate this, so there's really no measuring. It's pretty straight ahead. Just reinforce these chassis components and then go in with the cross member. The whole thing that's going on here is these plates are boxing over the existing chassis, and it's gonna make it super strong. The cool factor in all of this is a proven design, and I know the car is gonna be way better for it. The TCI kit is made for a Falcon car. The Ranchero is like a truck, so I know the rear suspension area is gonna be some issue, but the front should just bolt right in. So the cross member that holds everything just slides into place, and you just follow through with it. Tack that together, on to the next. Having the cross member installed, the next step is the upper shock mounts. They locate with a little index mark, you square them up, weld them on. After that, the front sway bar mounts go in, and it's just a simple measure and weld. I'm used to working with old junk that I have to make fit. This is all brand new and fits perfectly. The most challenging part of this is the welding and setup. Every other component just bolts right into place.
So this is the lower control arm. This is for the driver's side, and that's what goes in first.
These mount the sway bar, which is those tabs I just put in. And let's do the passenger side. Everybody who has an old car wants it to drive better, add more power, right? That's hot rodding. And this is the same formula, 21st century style. The whole thing about the TCI suspension is it's completely custom. They call it a Mustang 2, but every part is custom. The coilover suspension ride height is adjustable with this dial here. Vented and drilled brake rotors. Of course, a power rack and pinion steering.
Almost too easy. I need something challenging after this project.
So the rack needs to be centered, alignment needs to be established, all that good stuff. What I'm doing is just assembling it enough to get it on the floor, and it's gonna go to the professional. I have other issues to contend with in the rear. There's a couple unknowns for this whole rear suspension. TCI sent over a whole bunch of different components from 2 different kits, so I have to figure out what to use and how to modify them. Knowing Bill, there's been a bunch of different upgrades to this car, and that adds to the big question mark. You know, the axle may be different, the transmission, who knows what's gone on under there. So here's the deal, here's where they went wrong. Lowering blocks are okay, but not hollow lowering blocks. It's no wonder this car handled terribly. Aha. So, there's your lowering block. There's a bunch of stuff holding this rear suspension on. The bottom line is just take it all out. Drop the axle, pull out the leaf springs, strip it down. Only one more to go. That is stuck. What happened is the bolt has rusted to the collar inside the rubber. So see, I'm getting flex, but it's locked in place. This is really bringing it home for me. This is the type of stuff I typically deal with on a project. The whole front side of this car just got me spoiled. But, you know, I got my ways. I got that thing eventually, but it took a while. I know this kit's gonna need some type of modifications. I'm just gonna start off by checking out the rear axle and all the brackets that fasten to it. Right off the bat, I can see that the Ranchero has a completely different axle than what the TCI kit is asking for. So,
There's a huge mismatch.
The Ford 9-inch is your typical go-to axle for a race car. TCI specs this because it's bulletproof. They're hard to break. I could modify these parts to work, no problem, but knowing Bill, he's got a 9-inch Ford up at his place. There's also something that I've been wanting to talk to him about. Bill's got a ton of Falcon and Ranchero stuff laying around. He has a 9-inch rear end that's in good condition. It's gonna make this install a whole lot easier.
I've got a bunch of rear ends laying here. I don't believe I have a Ford 9-inch. I think this is 6-cylinder. It's 4-lug.
That ain't gonna work. So Bill's steering me around his parts pile, and we're back at this yellow Ranchero again. It's a pretty rough car, but I'm gonna look underneath and just see what it's got. Oh yeah, it's 5-lug.
It's a 5-lug.
This is a V8 car?
This is a V8 car.
You got a trailer hitch. No, this is an identical axle to yours.
Yeah, to my knowledge, they did not make a 9-inch in a Falcon car.
Cost effectiveness, you know that that is operating in the car. Maybe I'll just modify what we have and make that one work.
Okay, that's great. If you can bracket for that, I'd like it, and we've got a spare. I'm very happy he's gonna use what's in there because it's a good rear end. And he'll make it work and it'll be great.
So, enough about these Rancheros. I wanted to talk about your other Falcon.
Aha.
That van thing over there.
Okay.
To me, that's the real jewel on the lot. So ever since I came up here last time, this thing's been on my mind. I got to looking at the van, and I'm really into it. I think if we could fix this thing up, we'd probably sell it and help finance the Ranchero. Because it doesn't look like it's been crashed. There's a mystery somewhere in this thing, just like the other car. It's like, why is it sitting here, Bill? You're not telling me why. There's got to be something wrong with it.
You know, I think I've had this for probably 10, 12 years. I've always liked it. It, of course, is a Falcon, too, and you know me and
so
Falcons. I bought this van from a farm up in Bakersfield many years ago, and I don't think Ian noticed it at first, but there really is some rust damage. You know, there's a lot of these panels, I guess, that held water at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
See them?
Well, there's your problem right there. Yeah, it looks one thing from the outside, but there's a whole story going on underneath.
Right.
So all the doors are like this?
I don't think all of them. I think the driver is the worst. It just held the water over the years.
But that's kind of good because like a van that's near the ocean or something will rot. The whole top will rot out because the salt will sit in all the weather stripping and rubbers. But I think you got the opposite, like sediment clogged up any drain holes in the bottom. I wouldn't consider this the typical kind of rust, though, that I'm familiar with. You see all these wheel arches rotted out, and what I'm seeing is the exact opposite. And it seems like every area that could clog up with sediment and hold water did. Just looking at this van, I see greatness. You know, it's got some issues, but I know I can work through it. This is cool. It's a total beach van. You could sell this to one of the surfer guys down on California Street for a mint. Well, all in all, I think it's a survivor, man. I think it's a good base platform to start. What about this engine?
When I bought this van, I did some motor work and drivetrain work to it, and I think it should run fine. It'd be nice to finance the Ranchero with this project, and I hope Ian's not taking on too much. Let's try to revive it and bring it back and see what it is.
It's in great shape. The body looks pretty straight. I think we could just freshen it up a little. He can make some money.
With Ian, nothing's ever too much work or too much trouble or too hard. So we'll see.
Bill loves the idea of getting rid of this van, but he's just a little reluctant because here I am dragging him into another project. So I just got to keep the pep talks going, turn these cars out. I'm locked and loaded. I'll take it down to the valley and I'll give you my prognosis. I came up here looking for an axle, but now I got a trailer loaded up with a van, another project, and I'm heading back to the shop. So here we go, project number 2. Got the van down to the shop. What's not to dig about this? It's a '62 Falcon van. And this thing is it's very cool. It's a short wheelbase, so that's desirable. Engine works, brakes work. Just like Bill said, the thing runs great. So it was just a matter of getting fuel and battery, and it runs perfect. Everything about it looks decent, except it's got the cancer. It's got some bad rust issues in it. To me, that's the scariest part in the whole vehicle, because I know what we're looking at is just the tip of the iceberg. I got a couple good ideas on how to get this thing back in action. The question is, how bad is it? All right, so I'm gonna start off on the front, because to me, it looks like it's hiding some secrets. Pull off the front bumper, turn signals, you know, trim stuff. Start sanding it. And that's where the story begins. There's a ton of filler in this thing. I'm doing the excavation here, you know, this is down and dirty. I thought I could sand it off, but it just got thicker and thicker. I ended up just cracking it off as brutally as I could. Yeah, it's all pushed in right there. Even though the van looks pretty good, you see it's hiding secrets. Some of my time in Egypt spent doing exactly this type of operation. I'd say there's been a traumatic event. This van ran into something, and then it was repaired really poorly. The easiest solution would be to get a replacement panel, but I think I can just take this thing, reformulate it, and put it back into place. Yeah, there's definitely some issues here. So I cut this panel out, and I see an even bigger problem. Turns out the inner structure of the van is rusted out. This is your typical can of worms scenario. I was hoping I wouldn't have to get inside, but now we're in, and it's a mess. All of a sudden, it ain't so pretty, is it? I'm gonna cut the top panel above the headlight and try to reform that too, but first I'm gonna fix this internal structure. I'm gonna cut this pillar off of this. Not only did I just replace this bottom plate, I gusseted it up into the floorboard. It never had this structure, and I made this bottom of the A-pillar just bigger. You see, it's all triangulated, so it just creates this big shape that's super strong. Once I got the inner structure built, it was on to straighten out the panels. So the challenge here is to try to put this back into shape. I cut it off pretty simply so I can reinstall it, but if you look at it, it's totally caved in right here. You got a nice crunch here, and then of course there's rust in this corner. But while I'm setting this up, I'm gonna give this one some action too, and maybe I could just knock this into shape as well. The cool factor about this is that you're not your typical auto body procedure. I'm gonna fire up this torch and get medieval on it. This metal piece was created in a certain shape. The only thing that changed was the collision made it into a different shape. I want to bring it back to the way it was, and that's just done by a series of heating and hammering. The whole idea with annealing the metal is to just evenly heat it so that all the molecules kind of relax. They're all shrunk up and rigid. So I'm just trying to get the whole thing as red hot as possible, then it'll be softer. This is way better than it was. The whole idea is I'm just gonna fit it into place and then continue hammer and dollying it. The main point of the collision was obviously in this lower door hinge area, and it's way out of shape. So once I get the sheet metal skin on the front looking good, it's all about the door gap. I'm just gonna come in with another piece of sheet metal, fit it up, so structure's back. I'm really happy with the way that this metal repair worked out. I mean, this van was not even usable, truly. So structure's back, sheet metal skin is on, a little filler, and it's on to primer and paint. I need to get the Ranchero to be a roller. It's got a long ways to go.
I got this polyester style primer from Eastwood. Bill didn't have a 9-inch rear axle. He says the one that's in the car is in perfect working order. So I've come up with a plan that's just going to adapt the TCI brackets to the smaller axle housing. First thing I did was cut off the leaf spring perches and then sanded down the metal to just prep out the axle. The TCI kit is calling for a 3-inch diameter axle tube. This one is only 2 1/4. I'm gonna set up a couple steel plates and make an adapter so that their parts will fit right to this axle. There's really no concern with strength with this adapter. It's thicker material than their brackets, but really it's just about getting all the parts centered up properly. I got the brackets welded on. I'm just gonna get this axle painted and ready for installation. The thing is that I need to put this whole unit under the vehicle like this, assembled, so it's pretty bulky. My whole idea with installing this rear suspension is to mock it all up on the table, slide it under the car, and just see how it's gonna work out. I'm taking this approach because I wanna see what's gonna be close enough to work, what I need to modify, and how to go forward on this. This whole kit was designed to work together, so what I'm trying to do is just modify everything as little as possible. You know, the car works great as it is, the suspension works great as it is. I just gotta figure out how to put them together. You can see my dual jack procedure. I'll be able to elevate this, plug it in. As soon as I lift this thing into place, I could see where the difference lies. Already I'm seeing an issue. The brackets going up that are meant to hit the floor are about 1 inch off. So you can see that this bracket is supposed to be right up against the floor, so it's just about that much. And you can see here, it's the same deal. So this is one thing that definitely needs to be modified. And the good news is that the wheelbase is proper. The axle is right above the bump stops, right where it was. So these dimensions are perfect. All I need to do is set this subframe up inside the car a little bit. The first order of business is this old bump stop that used to be a snubber for the differential. That was definitely in the way because the car is gonna ride so low. First order of business was cutting it off. Second, I just needed to drill a few holes to reposition the rear bracket where the arms locate. Once I did that, the rear fit up perfectly. It was time to move on to the front. All right, so the rear is one thing, but the front is entirely another. This frame is wider than the Ranchero, and it's deeper. I got a plan. I call it a cutting disc, a Sawzall, and a welder. Watch me go. In really thinking this through, it seems like if I just cut off a bit of the front portion of the subframe connector, I should be able to make this fit, and by boxing it in, it'll make it even stronger. With all the suspension in place, it's ready for the engine and transmission. Bill really had a concern about the transmission on this car, so we got hooked up with Monster transmission, got a brand new, fresh transmission put in there. It's an AOD, automatic overdrive. That's what Bill upgraded this car to, and they had a direct replacement. Doug's headers, these guys obviously know what they're doing. It's all ceramic coated, super nice stuff. But they set it up so that just comes in and the steering rod clears. It's got just enough room to operate, so that's cool. It's really satisfying to get this car in an assembled state. I can't wait to show it to Bill. Last time he saw it, it was a bunch of concepts and a half disassembled vehicle. All right, well, are we ready for delivery? No response. I'm getting a chimp, that's it. You're not holding up your end of the bargain. No, I'm gonna go get a small monkey. It's gonna be way more charming. No, I'm sorry. Came up here to Bill's. The Falcon van is up here. We're getting started on bodywork.
I pulled off all the doors. John, the body guy, can block out all the panels independently while I'm working on the body.
Well, with Ian, I've kind of gone over the top this time. I've never done it before. He has 2 of my vehicles, so we're getting a double whammy here. And I'm kind of going, dang, there's still a ton to do here.
The main thing I need to accomplish is getting this rear quarter behind the wheel arch repaired. That's another reason they didn't want this van, because they had to fix this panel.
I love watching Ian work. He's a master at his craft. So, you know, I was watching him and watching how he did it. He's like a surgeon. Wow, you knocked that out quick, Ian.
That's the plan, man. No time to waste. So the rear quarter worked out perfectly. Very simple. Then the rocker, which I thought was going to be the simple one, turns into a freaking mud-slinging fest. Look at all the mud coming out. That's why it rusted.
When that dirt started coming, you know, I thought, well, there's, you know, a coffee can full of dirt. Then I went around the other side and came back, and there's 2 coffee cans full of dirt. And I'm thinking, where's he getting all this dirt?
Look at it all.
This truck was originally in Bakersfield area, and I think on a ranch. So it just probably drove back and forth on these ranch roads.
This is like surgery, you know? Not a lot of people go for it this way, but I've got a technique. Let's see what happens when I blow out this vent. Ooh, yeah. It's the air hose wrangling, dry it out, weld her up. Once I got all the mud cleaned out, I started on the patch panel. I'm gonna concentrate on the metal work, because that's what I do. You can have your gardener come in and take care of the rest of this sod work. I'm gonna make a patch. I found that I needed a slight radius in the bend, and I was able to first form it with the Eastwood sheet metal brake, and then just tap it out on the radius of the floor seam, and it matched the van perfectly. Look at that, it's like a van wall. Perfect. The whole goal is to get this van into primer. So the rust repair is complete, filler is going on. So I think one more day of me welding and John will finish up, then I can primer it. I was excited about this project for the interior. You know, it's kind of a blank canvas. The inside is empty. It's a window van. It's got tons of potential.
Well, I envisioned some
shag carpet, disco ball,
some
posters with nudie girls,
some benches to sit on.
It's so conservative.
And
opening bags.
No, could we make storage in benches?
Like your typical camper van
Right,
setup. But like
right.
I had a 70s van. It was a high roof van, and it had 2 benches along each side. They flipped open for storage.
That's
and then it was
the
almost
one.
like a sailboat where you would just plug the table
Correct.
into the floor.
That's what's on my mind. As we've got more involved with this van, I thought the interior would be nice if it was functional, some storage, and very comfortable to sit in. Ian was talking about a beach-style van, and I think that'd be fun.
Ideally, we would just find a couple of van seats and plug them in. That would be the easy way. Well, I think if we build the benches, they'll be custom fit for this. You know, I'll just build it out of square steel tube and we'll face them off because it's kind of a generic shape. But the table's really going to be the centerpiece, however you want to go with that.
I have a table or 2 in some container storage up above that you can look at and see if you can make it work or work from that.
Bill takes me to the upper level, you know, the storage spot, the semi-permanent collection. And first thing, cresting the hill, I see a table. It's very fast food.
That's exactly what it is.
That's the vibe you're going for.
Yeah, my friend's uncle had a hamburger stand, and that's where that came from.
I can make anything work, but looking at this, we're not building a drive-through burger joint. We're making a cool van. Good thing is, Bill says he's got plenty more things. He's got a couple shipping containers just full of stuff waiting to get put in this van. The old box of treasures.
Yes, there's just everything in here.
Digging around through the storage container, I'm seeing a washing machine, a space heater, a bunch of car parts, and he's got these 2 tabletops.
This one's rough, but we can clean that up, but that's...
Oh, it's like a Formica top. That's
Right.
the vibe we're going for. This one's kind of messed up. We can cut it and modify it, but...
No, I think I got the winner right here.
Oh,
Look at this guy.
That's exactly it.
With
Yeah.
this yellow Formica.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, it's got that 60s flavor, especially with the metal edge and the Formica.
I see no reason why we shouldn't make this work. I can build a couple benches, and we'll use this tabletop. It's the centerpiece. It fits the era of the van. I want this van to be nice. The tabletop's looking good, but I want to put a whole new base on it, get a new pedestal and something to attach to the floor. That was part of my concern, is inside the van, you can see it's pretty cramped. So this table proportionally is pretty bulky. But it looks like if we drop it 6 inches easy, then you'll just have enough room to scoot in and sit in here. The van vibe is all about plush interior, carpeted surfaces. I'm gonna make a couple box shapes that will be storage, but they'll also be carpeted bench seats all along the side of the van. I'm choosing to build this out of 1-inch square tubing because it's strong, and I also have a bender that can make a nice radiused edge. In seeing the Formica tabletop, I knew this bender was gonna match that detail on the corner of the table perfectly. That's what I'm thinking. Use that milk crate as a mock-up, just for height. This is the standard mock-up procedure. You see it in everything I do. I got a couple shapes that represent the seats. They're gonna be mocked up on milk crates. Got a 5-gallon pail, an old tire, couple 2x4s, just stacking parts, seeing how they fit. All the high-tech spacing, you know, this is how they built the space shuttle, actually. You're not gonna have any basketball players in here, are you?
No, that's great. I like that height.
This is a pretty simple idea, but the whole goal here is to have Bill happy with the end result.
I love the benches, Ian, and I really think this was a great call.
So the whole mode for the interior on this is just get it done. Bill's got a bunch of stuff here that I can work with, and I'm just gonna try to pull through this as efficiently as possible.
Ian and John have done a great job on the van. Bodywork, it needed a little more, of course, than we thought, but they've got it. And exciting today, Ian is bringing up the Ranchero. I haven't seen it before, and I'm majorly excited about seeing it. We're rolling to the lift, and I can see how the stance is gonna be. It's gonna be just awesome. I haven't really got to look underneath yet, but I'm really excited about it.
Up to this point, everything was hearsay. You know, Bill only saw the Ranchero a couple times, but bringing it back here, fully assembled, it's just cemented the fact. I think he's in my pocket. I think I got him. Let me show you what we got, sir. This isn't the Ranchero you're used to looking at. Behold, the new and improved.
It's just amazing.
Coilover shocks that are adjustable. Then to not modify the floor, they put this huge, they call it a torque arm. So the top of the differential comes down through these adjustable heim joint links, so you can adjust your pinion angle.
Oh my gosh, this thing is gonna be like a sports car. This is gonna drive like a totally, totally different vehicle.
Yeah, race car stuff. Look
You're
at
not-
this sway bar.
Yeah.
You remember your little Monte
Right,
Carlo
right.
bar? Well, this is gonna do it the right way. I think Bill was just kind of tripping out on how techy everything was.
Well, you made it sound pretty simple, but
This front end was simple. This was a one-day job. The rear and the center section were a bit more challenging because I had to modify the floors underneath.
well, this is beautiful. I've never really looked at all these fancy suspension things. Now I got one, and I can look at my own, and pretty exciting. The only thing more exciting than seeing it today, which is pretty incredible, is the first time I fire it and get to drive it.
Yeah.
On the next episode of Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel continues the transformation of the two Falcons.
I didn't tell Bill when I was returning or what I was doing or what color I was painting it. It was like a surprise reveal.
Wow, and this is the cool finish.
But Ian's client has his sights set on selling the Falcon van.
Ian's always full of surprises, and my wallet is getting empty.
The whole deal with this van project was, hey man, you could make some money and recoup on this investment in the Ranchero. I got a million ideas, but there ain't one done yet.
With the pressure on, Ian calls in some help from his friends.
Jack comes by. He's the upholstery guy.
This is really nice.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to determine the final tone is we have a shoe test.
A shoe test?
I'll be right back.
What's...
There's a lot going on to finalize both of these projects at the same time. My friend Bob's in town.
I'm here to help. Let's get this baby done. I'm pumped. Ian,
What?
I'm stuck. Help me out of here.
It's all that hair gel.
We're getting Ianized, and I think I have somebody that's interested in buying it.
I like cars. I like cars that have motorcycles in them better.
And with the van sale on the line, things are heating up with the Ranchero.
I'm just holding it together, you know? I'm turning dials, ringing bells, blowing whistles, the whole 9 yards. Bill's looking at me a little cross-eyed, because all he hears is this clunking, chugging engine. It's smoke pouring out of it. I gotta pull this off.
Right now on this special episode of Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel goes back in time.
We're gonna go traditional on this, or at least as traditional as I can muster.
Created in 2005, this film captures the rebirth of custom culture and features a classic build by Ian Roussel.
My favorite thing is that you can take something that people will recognize and just warp it into something that they don't recognize.
Also featuring a creative cast of characters.
I can just keep learning. That's why I hang out with Ian, because he's just a maniac when it comes to this metal work.
Plus the Burbank Choppers Car Club and many more.
It's like a time machine in a lot of ways.
Full Custom Garage presents Back from the Dead.
If this was 1955, the kids back then couldn't afford a $10,000 paint job, just like we can't now, you know? We just primer it, and we want to drive it, man. We just want to go out there and burn up the streets and hang out with our friends and, you know, pick up some girls or whatever, you know? It's hot rodding.
It's absolutely an affliction, you know? It's like drugs. It's absolutely like drugs. It's probably sometimes more expensive than drugs.
I think it's outside the law. I think it's above the law. Just got respect.
We did it kind of as a punk rock thing, you know, the attitude against the norm.
All this stuff is hand-built by the owner, and that's what kind of makes these cars stand out. I mean, they don't look like the $150,000 car. They're not supposed to.
They're raw, they're weird, they're crazy, they're scary.
The thing that I like most about these cars are that you don't have all the parts together. They're all around, they're leftover pieces from other projects. It's super low budget. It's more of a treasure hunt than anything. You have to scavenge around and just make something that's badass. The next project I want to do is a Model A. I want to build a roadster pickup. Call it a rat rod. It's a whole new trend. It's hot right now. Everybody wants one. So my intent is to dip into my own private parts stash, source out a few other pieces around town. I know a bunch of hideouts. People have stashes of parts, and we're gonna build this thing. I want to bring it to Las Vegas to sell. There's a show coming up at the end of March, which is dedicated mostly to this kind of custom culture, this new era of car customizers and people who live this lifestyle. The most important thing for me was to lay down the line of the car, and I want it to be utterly low. I want it to be so low it was almost undrivable, because I think that looks the best. So I just stepped the chassis way up in the back. The rear end, a lot of people run a buggy spring. I didn't have one, so I took these coil springs and made the chassis to fit that. The most important thing for me was to take all the pieces and get a rolling chassis and make it ready for all the body and the aesthetic parts. I guess for me, fabricating is it's just sculpting. That's all it is. An artist sculpts in clay or wood or whatever. I sculpt in metal.
How would you describe the spider car?
I built that car for Viva last year. If I was a cartoon character, I'd be a supervillain, and that would be my car. I think some people might have a problem with it because it's not traditional. It's made of all old parts, but it doesn't fit the mold. It's not what a guy would drive in 1955 in high school.
My name is Bill Wishart. I'm an auto tech teacher here at Fremont High School in Sunnyvale, California. So take a look, guys. 2 weeks for the dually deadline, all right? That thing's got to tow a trailer to Vegas in 2 weeks. Okay. There. There, happy?
The thing about Bill Wishart is he's a no-nonsense guy. I mean, he has very high standards about how you will behave, how you will act as a student in his class, and also what you're expected to do.
And Brian, ready? Ready? Yeah, he gets his own category here. Okay, so you get to wire the whole front of the truck. You guys ready? Yeah. All right, let's do it. Got in an accident over the summer and the work truck got smashed, so I've been out of a truck. So the kids, have been able to put this whole truck back together, and it's going to Las Vegas in a couple weeks. We're having a big car show and band event called Viva Las Vegas. They have enough pride that if I give them a project like this Chevy truck that we're building, they'll be stoked if it made it clear to Las Vegas and back, because they made it happen.
That's probably what started it, just this class. If I didn't have this class, I wouldn't be in the cars. I wouldn't be this far. I wouldn't have this car. This is a 1954 Chevy, 210 sedan. And when I bought it off my friend for $800, brought it here and basically tore the whole thing apart. Put the engine in, new rear axle, new tires, just basically the whole thing. I was sitting in some guy's backyard for like 20 years. I'm hoping to take it to Vegas. I don't know if it can make it.
A lot of the guys you see striped, they draw it out, then they stripe it, so I'm not really into doing anything twice. I want to do it once and I want to get paid for it. If I do it twice, I want to get paid for it twice. I'm really into being fast and symmetrical. My dad striped when he was a kid. My mom was an artist, and kind of taught myself. And I finally met a guy that did it for a living, and he pointed me the way, showed me how to load my brush properly and stuff like that. And it was like overnight, everything changed. I think I'm done. I'm just, you know, I've got to meet all these other people that know how to do everything else, that, you know, so I can just keep learning, you know. That's why I hang out with Ian, because he sees stuff that I don't see, because he's an artist like no other. I mean, he's just a maniac when it comes to this metal work.
Set up a couple of these gussets. We're gonna run it along the entire length of the arm here. The most important thing to me right now is to make sure that these things don't break. A lot of them have been sitting around for 30, 40, 50 years, not being used. I don't know how strong they are. My first idea was to make sure they were strong. As soon as I did that, I realized it has to look good. And I want it to look good and old, like it might have happened back in the day. I hope somebody with a lot of money really likes it. It's a fine pair of headers. I'm gonna ruin them by cutting them apart and putting some silly contraption on that I create. I'm gonna keep these till I'm dead. I'm gonna keep these till I'm all done. So maybe I'll put a little bit of me into this and hopefully it'll stay there. Whoever wants the car can just unbolt them, but I don't think anyone that's traditional would really love what's going on here right now. I think they'd be a little bit upset. Friend Scratch came over and painted my bus. I want to check out what he did. I know what this is gonna cost. It looks great. You said do what you want, but I didn't really mean that.
I just figured, you know, the front end, you know, has all the striping on it, and the back didn't have anything, so I don't know. I'm really into a traditional vehicle, you know, like find a period and just form the car around it, you know, have like a 5-year margin. This is kind of my pride right now. I know you can't tell, but it's going to be a car that was actually a painting of Keith Wiesner.
You're asking me if my art's influenced by what I see here or the other way around, and it's both. It kind of just keeps going. Like I'll see something and it'll turn me on, and I'll go home and do a drawing of something like it, but it won't really be the same thing. And somebody else will see that and they go, wow, that's neat, I'll build a car like that. And they take it a step further, and then it just keeps getting translated back and forth.
So it's a 26T, tall T. I chopped it 12 inches, shortened it 4.5, and put a Model A cowl on it. You'll look up over the top of it when you drive it like a monster would. It'll be a car called Cherry Pie.
This is my booth of wares here, and I got all my posters and shirts and stuff that we sell. Well, when I was a little kid, my dad had all these old Rod and Customs and different magazines, and that's what I used to look at when I was a little kid, even though it was the 70s. You know, I wasn't that into all the stuff that was going on in the 70s because I was at home looking at all these 50s Rod and Customs and stuff. This is my 50 Ford. It's a sedan and it's chopped. It looks a little more like a coupe now. Roof was shortened up a little. It has a 50 Mercury style grill opening. Grill bar made from 51 Ford grill components. I've had this since I was in high school. Just been working on it ever since. It's just kind of a long-term project. When I built my first custom car, I got the car going, it was pretty much done, and I didn't know what to expect. Drove it down to Paso Robles, and I was surprised to see that there were other people out there doing the same thing that I was. And that's how I found the Road Zombies, was, you know, I noticed their cars, they were, you know, very similarly built to mine. And, you
just kind of started talking to them, and they were cool. They invited me to park with them at Paso. We've got about, I would say, 17 current club members with two prospects going on right now. One of the prospects right now is a fellow named Steve Cavallero.
It's a great lifestyle, and it's a great hobby for me, and I'm stoked that I got into it, and I've met a lot of cool people, and it's actually the hot rod stuff has really got me more into art, so I'm starting to do a lot of more painting, and I just love the creative side of all these guys and what they've done.
I really love this idea of just spot welding, make it look more like rivets, so I'm going to do all the arms like that, just about an inch apart, just big, nasty welds that look like rivets. Big rivets makes me think of tanks, planes, military stuff, super industrial, so I'm going to make it look that way. That wraps it up. I think it looks really cool. I want to see it on the ground at ride height. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this man is about to desecrate a fantastic bit of Americana. That I tend to get carried away cartoony. That's a little bit out there, but I think it's okay. Okay. It's a 302, it's a small block Ford motor. I don't know where it came from, but it's all rebuilt and new. Yeah, this should make the car go at least 700 miles an hour. All I want to do is make this car and go to Vegas. My whole life right now revolves around this deadline. It has to be done.
Our whole goal as a car club is all of our cars, we just want them to be dead nuts on, as far as they want to be, it wants to be a time machine. None of these cars are by accident, and I think it's all by design. I immerse myself in it. I'm sitting reading catalogs from the 60s all day, I'm just, and magazines, and you just fill your brain with it, and then ultimately it's a no-brainer because you think, what am I gonna do about valve covers on this? And you go, I've got this idea in my head, I've seen this, it's real neat, drag guys were doing it. That's the same for everybody in this club. Vern, if he's building a 40 style Lakes car.
It's what I was looking for years. I wanted a 34 3-window that I could hot rod, that I could chop, I could turn it into a hot rod. These are Edmunds heads, high compression heads from late 40s, early 50s. Beehive oil cleaner, an old hot rod accessory item. These are electro-line headlights, pretty rare headlights there I found at a swap meet. I got gauges on the firewall. It's got 4 chrome Strombergs, sharp intake. This is a decklet I had louvered by Eric Vaughn. There's a lot of people, old timers, that, that's who I value their opinion of. A guy look at the car and go, wow, that looks like it was on the lakes back in '47.
This is my 1932 Ford 5-window coupe. Had it since 1988. I guess it was rebellious, but at the time I was just doing what I wanted to do. I chopped the car and it was all rough welds. The paint was all melted off of it. It didn't have any windshield or anything in it. And I drove it to Bob's, and I attracted more attention than any car there. But most of it was like, wow, you really wrecked this car. And a lot of people probably had never seen a car in the process of being chopped. And that, it was, sure, I did take a, really pristine 32 Ford and chopped it, but when I got the car, there was no question that's what I was going to do to it. It has a 54 Buick nailhead motor with a 37 Buick trans and a 39 Columbia rear end, a 2-speed rear end. It has a narrowed 44 dash, a 16-inch Ford wheels. It's chopped 4 inches. I guess what got me involved, I started looking at old photos like from the 40s, late 40s and early 50s. Even though it probably wasn't back then, it just seemed so mysterious and romantic and, so cool.
Look at these boots, man. These are some working ass toes. And I think they're about ready to retire. So we're gonna do the ritual toe extraction. Everybody thinks that that's part of the boot, but really, if you just grip it just right, it's kind of like pulling a tooth. Look at that thing. It's ripe and ready to go. Just clip that on there. There it is. Look at that thing, man. We can use that in the car somewhere. It's a good piece of metal. Yeah, look at that. There's a sock in there. Oh, there they are. Now I'm gonna put myself in harm's way for the rest of the day. I'm gonna have to be very careful. The easiest way to put sheet metal in is just in flat plates, but obviously the floor isn't flat. So what I'm doing is establishing a whole series of triangles. So it's kind of not origami, but it's something like that. Thought I was gonna do this setup with the jagged, burned out stuff, but I don't like it. I'm gonna put it something a little bit more conservative. So I'm gonna start by making a square tube frame that surrounds this license plate. Weld it on and spot weld like you have the arms, and it's done. It's clean and it looks good. Yeah, this is sweet. It's clean. It's right. It's not my greatest vision, but it's right for this.
How would you describe the dune buggy chick car?
That car is just, that car means so much to me, dude. It's, that car is, it's my favorite car. It's the best car I ever built. It's my favorite car in the whole world. I didn't expect that question. My ex-best friend, ex-girlfriend, she was a super rad artist, painter, sculptor. She said, well, why don't we make a flying dune buggy? I said, what? Yeah, like if Amelia Earhart met Tank Girl, and they got together and made a dune buggy, this is what it would be. A lot of workmanship, a lot of skill, but you know, it ain't cool. It just isn't. My father was working in this building doing construction. He got friendly with the janitor, and the janitor would give him cases of toilet paper and tampons, because that's, you know, all he could hook him up with. He was a janitor. So we always had all these boxes of tampons around. And I had to make these huge fiberglass shapes, and I didn't have enough material. So I mocked it up with some paper mache on the outside, and I took the tampons and threw them in the fiberglass, and they sucked full of this stuff, and I just laid them on. So it's kind of funny that it's a chick car, and it's made out of tampons, the whole rear end. Now this is a really big pizza box. Always order the extra large if you have to make any templates for a pickup truck bed. All in all, I think this is good for now. We'll trim it up later after we get all the folds put in it. This type of forming with the metal, it strengthens it. I'm designing so that it looks cool too, but it's mainly for strength because I want this lid to be able to hinge up and support itself. So these will really put a lot of strength in it. I guess again, back to the my car, their car thing. My car would have this.
How do you know when it's right?
I don't know that it's right. Call me in an hour. Maybe I'll just rip this thing and throw it in the garbage. This window frame, I made it from an original '39 Auburn windshield. I modified it to fit this car. I want to use these two cool old gauges. I don't know where they came from, but got oil pressure and water temperature. I don't know what this ashtray is from, but it's pretty cool looking. All right, that'll help you with your nicotine fix. And now for your alcohol fix, I think we'll install this fine bottle opener on the dashboard too. The police love to see that. I thought it would look cool to have the same kind of spot welded look like we did with the arms. A car, like any art piece, is an entity unto itself. You want to have a continuity. This is what's left of the original steering wheel. I don't know what year this came from, but obviously it's very old. It's just gonna be too big. It's probably gonna be up like that. It's here, let's change it around. I guess my favorite thing about the old tools is that it's not with mass production in mind. It's all about the handcrafting. So you get a lot of tools left over from industry that don't make money for people, so you can pick them up cheap. At first, I set up the steering column. I hooked up the original steering wheel, and it was too big. It didn't fit, so I just made a new hoop and made a smaller wheel. I mean, now that it's starting to look more like a car, I'm thinking about the paint, and of course, I was originally going to go with like flat black with red accents, but after seeing the dashboard and how cool it looks, I think I want to see what this will look like when I shine it up. I guess the reason I'm considering making it all metal as opposed to painting it flat black is because it'll just more showcase what I do. It's like I don't pride myself in auto body or Bondo or paint. I pride myself in making stuff out of metal. Makes me think of like a sardine can or something. It's like, it's cool. I think the rusty frame is enough. I'll paint the rest black. I can't decide where to put the shifter. I mean, originally I was gonna put it in the middle, big tall shifter. My other car has that. I've seen a lot of other people do it, but there's just no room in here. So I remembered I had this, this is an emergency brake for a Chevy truck, like a 66 or something. I think I want to make a jockey shift, a suicide shift for this car. So when you're driving, you're out of the car. You're like, it's really tough. Come on! Two, drive, neutral, reverse, park. Cool.
If we pick a certain era of a hot rod or a custom and the time frame of when that car might have been built, and then we just basically adhere to that year or group of years and build the car within those parameters.
My name's John Fisher, and I've been a chopper member for the full life of the club. And this is my 36 Ford. It's all done 40 style, kind of motorboat style. It's been chopped, 40 Ford fenders, and the taillights have been changed, and now they've been blended into the tail guards. And everything's been shaved. It was my initial design, and I kind of researched it. It has a 50 Ford Deluxe steering wheel. You know, it would be in primer, but I've kind of gone beyond primer and finally painted it. And I don't know, it just kind of snowballed. It was hard to stop doing stuff to it.
Kind of gives you a feel what it would have been like for a guy driving it, you know, in the 40s or the 50s or the 60s or whatever, depending on what car we're driving. You know, it's like a time machine in a lot of ways, I think.
We had these guys on here. I'm gonna save them maybe for one of my own cars, but we're gonna go traditional on this, or at least as traditional as I can muster. A lot of people talk about Ed Roth. They love his style, his aesthetic style, and he does stuff that nobody even understands, or he did stuff that nobody understands. So
That's what I want to do. People understand this. They can relate. Hopefully they'll pay a lot of money for it so I can do what I really want. I've seen this car before somewhere. That's all I can say. I'm trying to create something that everyone likes, except me. I think it's so done, just like that. Yeah, I decided that these things suck. Change it. Follow me. I think aspiring to a traditional build absolutely holds me back. I like the look of it, but I'm not concerned with the year, make, manufacturer. I'm just looking for an aesthetic. And that's what I love about this kind of approach, is that you're not really bound by a $1 million paint job. You can change it every week if you want. And it still looks rad. I'm just gonna start painting it. It's gonna evolve into something fantastic. I thought it would look really cool if we left rust in a lot of spots and just put the only gloss paint on the whole car, which is high gloss clear, to just showcase all the old metal. I think that'll look really badass. The body was just too nice. I just You thought I forgot about those steel toes, didn't you? I didn't have a vent for it, you know? You need a little ventilation in there. I think they're perfect. I just knew it would come to me. I knew those toes were gonna be worth something, man. They were too cool to just throw out. My favorite thing is that you can take something that people will recognize and just warp it into something that they don't recognize.
That's my super project back there. Probably like in a year or so. I'm gonna start on that. It's a 50 olds. It's my 55. I had that up and running about probably 8 years ago now. One of my crazy buddies, Nacho, he had some wild idea to build a tiki head for some reason. He didn't know what to do with it, so we brought it over here. But it was one of those things like, you know, who knows what the hell we're doing here with this thing, you know? So this is the workshop. This is where all the cars get built out of here. Maybe 6 to 10 cars within the last 3 years.
This is where you built this car?
Yeah, this is where I built this car. The engine's a 57 392. The carburetion's 4 Webers. The frame I hand built. Only the front 2 feet are the original Model A frame, and the rest is 2x4 box tubing. 46 Ford steering column, 32 style dash. I chopped it 4 inches. It's got an old roll pan on the back from a 50s hot rod I found in an old man's garage. It was the only piece he saved from his high school hot rod that he had. We get our kicks off of trying to build it as traditional as we can, rather than just buying parts out of a catalog. We're just kind of bringing it back to the roots where it started.
like an expectant father.
Nervous?
Yes, nervous.
Somebody squirted oil down the cylinder wall.
Oh yeah, I filled it with oil. It's the sweet smell of success. I think the artist's struggle is finding out how he wants to express himself. So one day it was black, the next day it was silver. That's all I can say. I was moved to sand the entire car just to see, and I think I like this. I finished off the tailgate here. Just took the remaining piece from this after I cut it, welded it across here, and just put a little bar on the back for a handle. I got some hinges that were just laying around and put them in there. Put some reinforcements and then just sprayed it with undercoat. I'm gonna spray a clear with a little gold flake in it, so it's just a little more dramatic when the sun's on it. Oh, he's the guy with the gold car. Yeah, I saw that car out there. That's the gold one. We gotta go. It's almost time. We gotta go. After it was gold, I was horrified, so I sprayed it black in an effort to just make it fit. It looked like Liberace. It was so wrong.
The car club, the shifters from Southern California, throw a car show every year. Their whole deal is a pre-63 car show, all traditional built rods and customs. There's thousands of people up here, hundreds of cars. They turned away 200 cars at the gate this morning that didn't fit the criteria. It's all about the traditionally built custom and hot rod.
we pulled in last night, this place was already packed. I couldn't believe it. Met the road zombies from up north and saw the giant tiki, and these dudes saved us a spot to park as well. And I guess they dug the car. I guess I was really concerned with that and the whole build, making sure that the people who were into the traditional stuff respected what I did.
I think Ian's car is real awesome. You know, personally, I'm into the more traditional style cars, and his car is definitely along the lines of very traditional, the way it looks, very artsy. He's done a lot of classy artwork with it as far as his welding and stuff like that, which is cool. You know, he's personalized it.
I was noticing the tie rod ends, how all the welds and stuff, all this like kind of little spot welds. It's cool. It looks like it came out pretty awesome.
And there's just thousands of people here right now that want to be involved. If every car looked the same here, I guess it would be pretty boring. So there's a smattering of all different types of cars. Painted cars, primer cars, rusted cars. I'm not going to pick apart someone's car. I'm just going to build my car the way I want to build it.
There's people here that don't have a car, but they're going to have a car next year because they go, that's looks fun to me. So I'm going to go search out and buy a car and start working on it.
You know, it's all about fun. There's no attitude here. You know, with us or any of these other people, everyone's here for a good time. You kind of come here by yourself and you leave with 20 new friends. It's really cool.
Crazy thing, this is the least passionate I've ever seen this dog. I don't know if maybe I'm on the wrong course. First I get the lecture from Victor, and now I get the rear end of his royal houndness. He's supposed to be supportive, man. That's what a relationship's about. He's giving me the silent treatment. I'm not sweating it. I've had critics since day one. That's the fuel for the fire. I ain't scared, I'm going for it. I am always looking for new projects. I just wanted to do something that was fun. I've always been into skateboarding. Someone took me to the sand dunes once, and it just, to me, spoke that it was the skate park for cars. I got this fascination with dune buggies ever since, and I really just can't get enough of them. See this one here, these people are actually going for it in the sand. I couldn't believe any of this was real. You know, I'm looking at these magazines from the year I was born, 1970. The scene was so radically different than it is now. Maybe that's why I've been so fascinated with it, because it's stuff that I never saw it happen before me. These cars were primarily just handmade. You know, it was all about the experience. Traditional hot rodders may turn pale. Perfect. Just like hot rodding, you had every aspect of creativity. Some guys wanted to go real fast, some guys wanted a crazy look. You know, there's all kinds of experimental designs, and that's really what I dug about these old magazines. Little traditional, little classical, but like that, whoa, what is that feeling? I want to build a car directly in the line of pre-kit car off-roading. Something that's hand-built, late 60s,
I just happened to have a perfect donor car for my next crazy idea. Every project I do, there's always potential parts that get sidelined. Case in point, Victor and I did this project where he wanted to build a supercar. So he shows up with this Volkswagen kit car and only uses one piece of it. Victor wasn't interested in the mechanical aspect of this car at all, so I got it running and took it for a test drive. I know Volkswagens, they're not super fast. This car really had something going. I don't know if the engine's been built up or what, but this car moved out really good. It's a 1964 Volkswagen. It is period correct. I knew it was a strong runner, and I saved a whole chassis. One of the main inspirations for getting this project going is there's an event coming up. It's called the Old School Dune Buggy Reunion, and it's at Pismo Beach. This event is themed for this late 60s beach and sand dune scene. You know, everything that would have been there is welcome back. I had gotten started on this chassis. Once I kind of got a feeling for what I wanted out of it, I had to go on the hunt for the rest of the parts. See, I'm always checking out your stashes, man, and this little fiberglass treasure trove has got me thinking. Victor is a man of many facets. One of his many facets is a lot of yards with a lot of treasure. And he's got this Model T kit car body. Picture this. The Sterling, the old Sterling chassis, it's become a hot rod. It's morphed from the glorious opening roof project to an off-road sand buggy hot rod T-bucket project. Usually when you pitch Victor an idea, he gets excited and he's like, yeah, we could do anything. And this time he's starting to draw a blank. I just see a lot of the side-to-side motion.
You just finished the supercar. Now you're gonna do a dune buggy with this, whatever you wanna call it.
This T-bucket body is exactly what I need.
I don't know, Ian, I'm not seeing it, but if you see it, then go for it.
Victor was pretty much like, yeah, do whatever you want, take the body. I don't need to know anymore. I'm like, dude, you gotta understand, this is gonna be awesome. This picture, it's sun hat on, glasses, ice cold beverage, cruising the sand dunes. I think it's gonna be perfect.
Go for it, man. I was gonna throw it away anyway.
I'm just gonna have to build this thing, you know, never mind the sales pitch. I'm gonna build this and just show him what I'm thinking. And he may just turn the corner.
You don't even need help carrying it?
No, that's what I'm saying, ultra light, man, it's perfect. I thought I was just making like a pan buggy is what it's called. Just a shortened Volkswagen pan. Then I saw this body at Victor's and it got me thinking in a whole different direction. You know, I want to build more of like a hot rod styled dune buggy. So me and numero uno, El Shop Inspector, you know, we get out the cart and we go browsing. The thing that really cemented this idea was the body from Victor. You know, I also have a bunch of old suspension parts from another project. I have a 28 Ford Roadster pickup, and I swapped out the entire front suspension. So I have a stock Model A axle, all the hubs, spindles, I have the rims. Thing is, I don't throw much away. So I'm thinking, okay, suspension, axles, gas tank. Oh, I got a couple beer kegs. Classic, fits right in. Think about that. I've used the statement a million times. My favorite thing is like the jazz player who's in it, right? They're riffing, they're experimenting as they're going through this arrangement, and that's exactly how I like to build cars. I haven't seen anything like this, and I can't wait to try it out. I got the old Sterling chassis from Victor. You know, it was a runner. I shortened it and put in a screen floor in typical old school buggy style. Thing is, after kind of ruminating on it a bit, I decide I'm only going to use a piece of it. The VW suspension is bulletproof. It's a great choice. That's why they make dune buggies out of it. But I'm not looking for a great choice. I'm looking for something different, something unique. The big departure from every other old school dune buggy is I'm not using the Volkswagen front suspension. So first thing, off with the front. All of my ideas have been leading up to this. I've just been thinking about it. Basically, I have to build it complete to see if it works. Another leap of faith.
All right, start of a great project. Whole new turn of events.
In losing that Volkswagen suspension, I want to kind of lend a hot rod flavor to this. Concept for the front axle and suspension is basically Model A.
Model A tie rod and components. Model A front spring. Model A hubs and spindles. You can smell it, it's very old, don't you think? He's disinterested. It's just, dune buggies don't get the passion they deserve. Look at this. He's on Victor's team.
I got a piece of pipe that will be the axle, and I'm putting the spindles, kingpins, hubs, and rims of the Model A car on it.
So it'll have a radius rod, basically the same formula you'd see on a hot rod front suspension, except for this. This is the trick element of this design. Typically on a car like a Model A, your leaf spring is mounted in the center on this perch, so you just have a spring action. And I mean, it does articulate a bit, but you're always flexing the spring. What this does, with these shackle bolts, this piece here goes inside it, and it allows the entire front axle to swing without putting pressure on the spring. In other words, if you're coming up on a sand dune and this front tire lifts, it would potentially cause the rear tire to unweight and lose traction. So as you come onto the different terrain, the whole front axle swings and it leaves the two rear tires planted.
That's really the one thing that sets this car apart from the rest, you know, the cool factor of, oh yeah, it looks like a hot rod, but it also does this articulating thing, which gives it traction in the sand.
It's the crazy thing. This is the least passionate I've ever seen this dog. I don't know if maybe I'm on the wrong course. First I get the lecture from Victor, and now I get the rear end of his royal houndness.
I guess it's hard to give the sales pitch and find any buyers, it seems.
You're supposed to be supportive, man. That's what a relationship's about. It's giving me the silent treatment.
I'm not sweating it. I've had critics since day one. That's the fuel for the fire. I ain't scared, I'm going for it.
So this is the concept. In order for this to get attached to that, I'm gonna throw the whole chassis up on the table. That way I can square it up and measure. So, now we've got the patient on the operating table. It's time to get funky. I trimmed it up a little bit to fit the Volkswagen suspension. And hey, it's a dune buggy, you know, it can look a little chopped up. That's what I want. I want it to look like a mutant. Don't be distracted by the crusty look. This is not a rat rod. This thing's gonna shine up.
The thing about this car is in shortening the chassis, the wheelbase got really shrunk up. It's purely visual, you know. Maybe if you tried it again and again, you'd come up with a formula for ultimate performance. I'm just going for the visual aspect of it. It's gotta look long and lean.
Yes. Looking through my dark helmet, everything seems to be perfect.
I'm using this really heavy 2-inch tube, 1/8 wall. See where I'm going with this? And I'm just trying to create a truss structure to extend the wheelbase and keep it really strong.
All that noise and sparks and stuff is all led up to this. You got your pivot. Check. You got your sleeve that allows clearance to the fitting. Check. That goes on there. Check. And then you got your thrust washer. Trap it all together. I call this pivot a success. I mean, theoretically, this axle could swing 360. If it wasn't on the table, it could literally just go around the clock.
Everything about the suspension looks great, but the one issue is I gotta figure out how to steer it. Before I go any further on the front end design, I gotta find a way to steer it. And I got an idea that just might make it work. As per the usual, we're at one of Victor's many yards. This time I spotted a gaggle of golf carts, a group of vehicles that is no longer in service. So I start doing some poking around. It's like, Oh, they got like these lawnmower engines. Some of them got a lot of batteries. Oh, look, rack and pinion, club car, steering. This is perfect. This is a fine piece of Americana. This is a really basic setup. You got your steering wheel here, and then you got your tie rod there. So all I have to do is adapt it to the chassis. This is an off-road car, so aside from my theory and design of that extended element, I added some structure to the front end to really beef it up. It's gonna be bashing around off-road, and I want it to stay together. The idea being a triangle is strong, so your twisting motion is always supported in every direction. So this is the golf cart steering box, the club car donation box. I'm gonna set this up like a cross steer, just because that's what this rack and pinion is designed for. My mission today is to get this thing steering by a steering wheel and on 4 tires. This was one of the things I was looking forward to at this project. I mean, who has this kind of weird contraption welded to the front of their Volkswagen? Like everything in this car, there's nowhere to mount this box. I just made a quick plate with the bolt pattern. I'm gonna stick it on there and then weld something to it. Making mutants is all my business. I'm used to this kind of stuff, so merging a Volkswagen steering shaft with a golf cart steering box and a Model A suspension, no problemo. Cut, weld, assemble. Steering box is now part of the car. What do you think? Still skeptical. I'm making progress, whether you like it or not. This is the steering column and the wheel off the Sterling. So you can see it's got that old school, funky vibe. And this is gonna have to get put in here somehow. My goal with this entire project is it's a found object art piece. That truly is how these old school buggies were made. You know, I've been doing research, all these magazines and everything. Before there were kit cars, people actually made vehicles for the sand by hand. You got steering. You know, the wheel's way up, out of shape, but I'll be able to tailor this height-wise and distance from the seat back once I get some seats. I really want to put this on the ground. Test of this design is what happens when the wheels travel. There's going to be some feedback into the steering wheel for sure. I just don't know how much until I test it. Ready to witness the greatness? Check it out. Look at that. Smooth. So not only do you have the up and down bounce, but without the bounce, you have this swivel. That's a lot of suspension travel. This is what I've been waiting to see. You know, I wanted to get these 4 wheels on the ground and see how it operates, so it is a small victory. So the idea here, I mean, you see guys with Jeeps doing this all the time. So you got articulation in the suspension, but the 2 back tires are still planted flat. You know, even at that angle, it steers well, and that's the whole thing. You're cruising on a dune, your rear's not losing traction. This is exactly what I was hoping to achieve. That's the big satisfaction about this career I've chosen. It's taking all these mixed up ideas and getting to build them and try them out. And sometimes you actually succeed. It's pretty awesome. Yes, we need seats. I understand that's next. Starting to look the part. You know, there's a few other things I need for sure. I think it's time to get back on the hunt. Decided to swing by my friend Robin's workshop. I'm really hoping to pick up some seats from him for my dune buggy. Walking in right away, it feels like home. There's stuff everywhere. This guy's got the treasure. This looks like my kind of place. What's up, man? How you doing, man?
Man, good to see you.
It's been a while. You got stuff.
It's really great to be able to link up with Ian because we both share a love of cars and Volkswagens and weird things.
I have a couple seats, Italian car seats from the 50s.
Yeah.
They're nice. I kind of don't want to beat them up and change them.
I have a couple Italian cars from the 50s.
Right. Couldn't keep my eyes off of that.
Yeah, this is a 56 Vespa Ape, and it's a coffee cart and I really just fell in love with it.
Yeah, me too. That's the crazy thing. It is basically a scooter, but it's a pickup truck. And it's steel, right? Is it aluminum or steel?
It's all steel. If you could fit in this.
Oh, yeah. This is my kind of ride.
Yeah.
Man, definitely cool, for sure.
I'm taking Ian around my garage, and there's just a lot of stuff that he had never seen before.
So what's this?
So if you don't fit in the 3-wheeler, the next upgrade is the 4-wheeler.
4 wheels, 2 wheels, and 3 wheels.
Yeah, if you get 2 Vespa scooters and, and you weld them together side by side, you get...
That's what you get.
Yeah, Vespa 400.
The clincher for me is this 4-wheeled Vespa car. It's a micro car. And when I say micro, I can't stress that enough. I'm not even sitting in that car. Your head's already sticking out of the roof. How big were these people? Was this like from medieval times or something? Like
No, these are
4-foot beds?
These are Italian. Look, I'll sit in the back seat and you sit in the front seat.
Oh man, this is too cool. This is like an Ed Roth drawing, where the monster's sticking out of the car. Like that. Oh man. It's like a go-kart that he's put a Volkswagen engine in. So just like I'm building this mutant hot rod Volkswagen, he's built a mutant micro car with a Volkswagen engine.
Yeah, I had to stick some boat seats in here because I couldn't find any seats that would work.
Oh, I see.
So I'm hoping to get something that's just a little bit more authentic.
You're in the same predicament I'm in. I was working on a project with Hot Rod Bob and Tom Flores, and Bob had these seats. And he's like, oh, you're building a dune buggy, I'll never use these things, just take them. Oh, yeah.
As soon as he brought them over and stuck them inside, they fit perfectly. They were just made for that car. I couldn't believe it. I love it. I really needed those seats for my tiny Italian car I was building. So I was like, maybe we can figure something out in a trade.
Robin's up in the rafters. There's dust coming out of every corner. I don't know what he's doing up there. Whoa.
Yeah, I pulled these out of my junior high math class. These are actual Herman Miller chairs.
He's saying these are Herman Miller chairs, school chairs or something. I guess they were a mass-produced item, and now today they're collectible. Dude, these are perfect. I'm looking at these things like, this is perfect. They're very light, they're fiberglass, they've got the 60s flavor. Yeah, these I think are right for me. We just got to come to some kind of arrangement, because if they're worth a fortune.
Well, I just saw a pair like this go on eBay for $1,200.
That would make my car worth at least $1,300. These are awesome.
Are you happy with this trade?
Yes, this works for me. I need those seats, and he needs them seats, and now everybody's sitting pretty.
Unbelievable. I mean, this is like the best possible case scenario for my project, and hopefully for his project.
I'd say mission accomplished. These seats are a good step-off point to get the rear section of this buggy in action. I got these seats back from Robin, and they are dune buggy seats, 100%. Not too shabby, huh? It's the weirdest thing, just like with Robin's car, the seats look one way, but then when we're in her car, it's the opposite. And this has the opposite effect. It makes this car look much bigger than it did. But the question is, do I fit? Sometimes you never know what you're getting yourself into until you just go for it. The thing I needed with this project was minimal offset of my big carcass. You know, I needed a thin fiberglass shell so I could sit back in the vehicle, and these were exactly that. What do you think? I think he's into it. The fact that the shop inspector likes them is definitely a bonus. And now I'm moving forward. Steering next, then roll bar. Brake. Typically with an off-road roll bar, you want it as strong as possible. So you make all your measurements, you fit it in, weld it. Roll bar is primarily for looks, like most of the old dune buggies, so I could pull it off by using 2 pieces. Speed buggy roll cage. You know, it's just enough to represent off-road. Real crash scenario, I don't think any of them did much. And hey, I got nothing to lose. Take the body off, mount some seats. This is a small car, no doubt about it. I just had to figure out where the steering wheel felt comfortable, so got them in there and shortened up the steering column to match me. So you got your roll bar for support, steering wheel, one seat. Perfect. Let's see. That's what this has all been leading up to. I want that cartoon monster feel, you know? That's the whole idea here. Big giant ape in a little car. Whoa. I knew from the jump I wanted to use a beer keg for a gas tank. Beer keg fits behind the seats perfectly. Don't need a ton of fuel in this thing. It's got a stock Volkswagen engine. That goes right into place as it should. This is exactly what would be in a vintage dune buggy. That Sterling was a period piece. So what it is, I think it's a big bore, single port with this carb adapter. So it's probably high compression. I mean, it ripped in that Sterling. It really moved out. It's a good engine. So I think in this lighter vehicle, it's gonna be all right. The engine wasn't this nice in the Sterling. You know, the innards are what they are. I just took off all the sheet metal, cleaned it, painted it, reassembled it. So it's as it was in that car, and you could see it did some pretty hairy burnouts. I envisioned this whole car from the start having a Model A grill shell. You know, that's the whole hot rod look. Just chopped it down. I put this mesh in here. Nothing says hot rod like Model A. And basically, it sits like that. Still unimpressed. If I was building a Corvette or something, he'd probably be like, you know, dogs love Corvettes. So this is mechanically there. I could literally hook up a battery and some cables and brake hoses and drive it. But cosmetically, it's not what I need. I need something that's just like, pow, you know. I like the funky style. You know, I want it to be like, whoa, nobody looks past it. So that's the challenge. You know, black car, red rims, everybody's seen it. I gotta get to thinking. Like almost everything I do, there's no way to figure out if it's gonna work or not without just doing it. So it's time to get busy. Fleshing this thing out, getting some paint in place, I decided white was just a really clean look. Color says everything about a vehicle. You know, this is a good time, fun toy. It's not like a scary looking mean machine. You could really give the vehicle different flavor with a different color. I want that light reflectivity of a white base coat, something that really is blinding in the sunlight. In addition to some of this stuff. I called Little Daddy Roth. He's hooked me up with a lot of metal flake for different projects. And he has this new stuff called Snowblind White. White dune buggy, white metal flake. What could improve on that? Some of this. This is glow in the dark, top secret. Something about the late 60s, early 70s, you know, you had this like monster-fed cartoon monster stuff. I remember like glow-in-the-dark model kits were a huge thing. I want the car to reflect that time period. So, you know, I'm thinking, I have not seen a glow-in-the-dark dune buggy. This might be the next big thing. Every time I've used metal flake with auto paint, I just mix up about a half a cup, and then I pour the stuff in there. How much do I put in? I don't know. I'm gonna dump a lot in there. Oh man, that's fantastic. And I'm gonna put a lot of this in. Because this hopefully will change the color to more of this eerie glow yellow tone. Do I need that much glow? I don't know. I don't want to have not enough. Like almost everything I do, there's no way to figure out if it's gonna work or not without just doing it. So I'm gonna paint up a couple parts and test it out. So it has the effects I was hoping for. You can see it's like a frosted effect, and I'm gonna bury all this in clear, of course. This is just the first application. The thing I wasn't sure of, but I'm very excited about, is the glow green. It's still white, but it has like this greenish aura coming off of it. My theory from the start was that it looks pretty mellow during the day, but at night, it's party time. The only way to test it Just put that rim in the dark room and see if it worked. One thing I know is when I turn the lights off, that bottle of stuff glowed. But once you mix it with paint and put it on something, I just don't know if that is going to still happen. So this is the test. This is what it looks like in the daytime. And that's what it looks like at night. That is totally cool. It's a glowing Model A rim. It's exactly what I had hoped for. It's like a ghost ship going over the sand dunes. That's what this whole design is, you know? It's just one crazy idea after the other, you know? It's not a performance car, it's a party machine. This is better than I expected. Instead of doing a test plate, I just sprayed the whole chassis and rims. So it's kind of a gamble, but it paid off. It's a glow-in-the-dark dune buggy. Getting this accomplished glow-in-the-dark effect is gonna kick this paint job off. This one's a hit. You just gotta top it with that bodywork. It's time to get to it. Just like the chassis, I put a white base coat on this body. Primary reason for this white base coat is anything can go over it. I want kind of a classic pinstriped look, so it's not too technical, it's just a lot of layout. One thing I know is that dog is just here to be the critic, you know? I gotta prove it the whole way through, apparently, on this, not even small victories thus far. As crazy as the car is in its fabrication, I want like a classy vintage look. If you look at the early Model Ts, they would have this pinstripe deal around the body edges and the door, and I'm just trying to reflect on that. Pinstriper came in, he would probably follow certain lines on the body. Like you see these embossed areas around the doors, around the top of the body. Pinstriper would try to highlight all those. So I'm just gonna start by surrounding them with a tape line and see what it offers. It's not like I'm making the paint glow in the dark or anything like that. It's just a very conservative tape job. I want this to be a simple pinstripe design, but something about that really thin one line just wasn't holding the weight I wanted. I wanted to have kind of like a panel theme. There's like these boxes down the vehicle in different shapes. Basically everything that gets masked stays white. So we have white, fat, white, skinny. And then I think I might have to put another border inside or outside. It's kind of challenging in that when you're taping out something, you're taping out the negative of it. So dyslexia could interfere, especially if you're doing multiple sized lines, etc. So you can see what I'm painting is actually pretty small, but that's how much tape you have to do if you want that. It's a little challenging. You got to sit back and kind of reflect on what's actually going to be painted and what's going to be masked. So I'm just thinking what I want white. And I know I definitely want that top ridge of the body and all those embossed lines to be white. So I'm going to mask all that stuff off first. The whole thing is the majority of this car will be masked simply because it's going to remain white. So what I'm doing here, I've decided it's going to have two candy green pinstripes. This very thin white section here is a stripe, and this thick section here, so the center of these panels will be masked. So you'll have a heavy one with a nice round corner and like a tight little outline. Probably would be easy enough to just pinstripe this line, but I'm not a pinstriper, that's why I'm taping the heck out of it. So as long as the tape looks okay to your critical eye, I'm gonna spray this thing. I'm just gonna mix up some of this candy green I got from Eastwood. So looking at the value of this green, it's very green. I don't know what it's gonna look like on white. Well, wait a second, yes I do. So that's very thick for paint, for spray, but it's gonna be somewhere like that. One thing I know is that dune buggies sparkle. I'm gonna use this Little Daddy Roth metal flake all over the car. The green's a nice color, but I think with a little action in it, it's gonna be even better. There it is. That's what I'm looking for. The thing about this is once you spray it, it's a lot of work to go backwards, you know? Especially putting a pigment over white, you'd have to sand the thing back and start over, so you don't know what it looks like until you pull off the masking paper. Paint is applied. We gotta pull off the mask to see what it looks like. The good news is the shop inspector seems to have come around. He's taking a position of relaxation right up against the project. So, it's cured for 24 hours. Nice candy-coated metal flake thing. I don't really know what this is gonna look like, so if I did, I may leave some tape in place, but I'm going to choose to pull all the tape, see if it's good enough. I've made a couple pretty hairy mistakes in paintwork in the past, so it's like, I never know what it's gonna look like until I'm pulling it off. It's like opening a mystery gift basket. This was the debate in my head from the start. You know, the green could have taken over. It could have been a green car. Pulling the mask off, you see, it's a nice white Model T body with this sort of classic dual stripe. The thing I'm trying to do with this is like keep it lighthearted, you know? It's not like a badass, nasty hot rod. It's a beach buggy. Sunny day at the beach, you know? What looks cool? What looks like a fun thing to do? This car. The whole thing I was going for with this was like following the lines of the car. So like a vintage pinstripe would simply be around the contour of the body. And that's what you get. Double line, one fat, one skinny. Surprise, surprise, pulling this tape off, it's happening. You like it? Stepping back and looking at it, I really like the way it came out. I think it just needs one more thing. Dune buggies sparkle. I had a Roadster pickup truck years ago. Tried some gold, didn't work out. Round two, here we go. Tried this gold thing before and it hasn't worked out in my favor, so, you know, hopefully time heals all wounds, you know, I'm a little more mature now. This time I might be able to pull it off. It's the whole thing with the gold car, you know, it's here I am again with this gold flake and I'm just gonna dust it on the car until it looks right. The challenge here is to be subtle and less, you know, more Elvis, less Liberace. Progress-wise, everything's really fleshing out. You know, the paint scheme is looking good, all the fabrication is basically complete. It's all about getting this whole setup to the event, you know. Building's fun, cruising this thing's gonna be even cooler. Well, we made it. The old school dune buggy reunion is in effect. Pulling in here, the reunion is well underway and the parade is about to start. And I'm just totally checking out every different style of machine I could ever imagine. Some of them right out of Mad Max. And you have like your standard dune buggies. Manx style stuff. Totally cool. I mean, that's the thing, it's a slow speed cruise, so you really get to check out all the rides. And what I'm seeing is every car's unique. A lot of really old hand-built stuff. You got your sloppy jalopies, you got your super cool sand rails, and then these crazy water pumper things, which are like the full modified wild customs of the show. That's the first Myers Manx, the first ever. The parade is just the kickoff of the show. It's like, you know, the marching band coming into town. Number one about the car is first impression, right? It's got that cartoon, old school hot rod vibe. The paddle tires take it to the next level. You know, I got to think pinstriped, it's looking good, it's all polished out. I met up with Court, he's the main guy that runs this event.
People are really excited about seeing this car. You did a fantastic job. Adding the body to it just makes this so unique. It just has this unique, complete retro vibe with this kind of hot rod thing thrown on it, and it just, it's a really cool buggy. Can you tell me just a little bit about this paint? Because it looks, at first you'd think it's been out in the sand.
Right.
Right?
That was the idea. Court was really responding to the paint job. You know, I had my idea of what it was gonna look like, but him coming in, you know, fresh to it, he's like, this almost looks like the sparkling sands of a beach. It's like a white flake, and then I used a gold flake. So when you're looking at it, it looks like the beach.
It does, it does, it totally does.
I saw his car years ago and was so inspired by it. That was the basis for me for creating this pan buggy in that style. When you get up next to it, you know, you can feel the history. You see the way his car is set up with the Model T steering and all the 60s vibe in the build characteristics.
So this is my dad's car. He was the original owner. It was built in 1967, 68, so it's a 50-year-old car. The original roll bar were stainless steel swimming pool handrails.
Awesome.
Okay.
That, when I heard that story, I was like, primo. That's where I'm coming from.
All these buggies from the 50s and 60s were home built, much like you did, right?
With all old parts.
Yeah.
I saw your car in Hot VW's magazine years ago, and I wanted to build something styled after your front suspension.
Yeah, how did the front suspension work out for you?
It works great. The thing about this suspension design in Quartz in my car is that it is specifically designed for these tight sand dunes. The only way I can describe this place, it's like a skate park for cars. If you see any skateboarders on TV in a big concrete jungle, that's what this is, but it's a sand skate park for cars. I've been to the sand dunes before with different cars, but I've never experienced the authentic old school buggy ride. You just sand in your teeth. I should have brought goggles. The car's ripping it though. It's a wild ride. I'm having a great time. This is one thing I've always wanted to do. I mean, it's very satisfying. I've had a couple other buggies, but this one exceeds the thrill factor of the others. It's totally cool. Talking with Court, he starts telling me about the history of the event.
What's really cool about this event is it is a celebration of the origin and the older dune buggies, but it's open to all dune buggies, everybody to celebrate it. It doesn't matter whether it's from the 50s or whether it's a modern sand car. What draws people here is, one, a connection to their past and their families, and they can bring their whole family. And of course, it's all kind of encapsulated around the buggy, but when you actually talk to people around here, it's about the connection to their friends and family.
Yeah, to get outside, some antique vehicles, and camp out, the whole experience, it's like something you don't see typically. It's a really unique location to be able to drive on the beach, especially. Having a meet and greet, chatting with Court, and Bruce Myers walks up.
You know who that is?
Yeah, the guy that started it all. Right on. That's awesome. For those that don't know, Bruce is the guy that invented the Myers Manx. He is deep into the roots of this dune buggy fad. So way back in the day, I think it was 1964, he created the first fiberglass buggy body kit. I was born when it was all happening, and those cars, there was the one that started it all, the whole fiberglass buggy craze. The thing I was digging most about this guy is I think our brainwaves are kind of vibing, you know?
You got to break the rules. See, and that's what it is. It's a little bit of the thumbing of the nose of traditions.
Love that.
And everybody wants to do that because we all want to break a rule if we don't get caught.
His statement about why he did this was that the car was all about being creative, you know, doing your own thing, not driving within the lines, you know, no conformity. This is a fun vehicle to get out of society and just be you.
Did you create the top on this?
Yeah, I built the top. Yeah.
It's metal, is it?
It's metal with vinyl stretched over it, yeah. It's just a little hoop frame, you can see it. To get in and out, you know, that's the look I seen on Quartz website, but to get in and out of the car, I just hinged it. So when you shut it, you just put a hitch pin right through there to keep it locked.
Wow.
When I trailer it on the freeway, I just take the roof right off.
Okay.
But for around here, 10 miles, it's like you just put it in the truck, you just take it and slide it off, like that.
Holy cow.
While we're here also, one of the guys from Hot VW's magazine is here. And if you're in the Volkswagen world, you know that is the pinnacle of what's going on in the VW scene. And I've been trying to get in there since 1985. Since my first car, I've been submitting to Hot VW's magazine. And here I am, a wretched old man, and I build a mutant T-bucket Volkswagen, and finally, he wants to do a photo shoot.
We can do the photo shooting for the magazine, so my name
For
is
sure.
Shin.
My name's Ian. Yeah, we'll be here till tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, good, very cool.
Thanks. Paint job worked out great. The car does glow. I didn't want to drive it at night. It's still a little sketchy, so, you know, mission accomplished on that. It looks great in the daytime. It's got the metal flake, and at night, it's glowing in the dark.